Secretary will call the roll.
Chair LaFaro is absent. Vice Chair Finnerty.
Present.
The Secretary is here. Board Member Catalinato.
Present.
Board Member Mutu.
Present.
Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great, could you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have minutes to approve?
We
Madam
do.
Secretary?
April 27th.
April 27th, we have a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Craig,
Second.
second by Kate. All in favor, aye. Opposed, abstentions. We have 6 yes, 1 absent. Is that correct? Yes.
That is correct.
We're going to jump to town board referrals. Number 9, Dave, you going to go in order, or?
I can go in order, I don't know which one's on first.
9 is the incentive, the Chapter
TDR amendment.
339, zoning
no,
density
I
incentive.
think 9, 10, and 11 are all.
Yeah, they're all
TRDs.
related.
They're all
Okay.
related,
okay.
Yeah.
So if you recall, I don't know, what was it, a month ago, 2 months ago? I did that little presentation on our TDR codes. That was kind of a preamble to the code amendments, which had been forwarded around that time also, with the intention of having the board act on those, on that referral from the town board. So hopefully you've all had a chance to review those amendments. Just to summarize them, we basically took our existing TDR codes and we added in the words sanitary flow credits so that our codes officially recognize sanitary flow as part of a TDR transfer. We're doing this so that the health department can recognize our TDR certificates. They recognize, I think, 5 or 6 towns already, their TDR programs. But it's been a problem for us because when a developer is doing affordable housing, an example is the one in Noyak that's before the board right now, and they need sanitary flow credits to get their health department approval. If we had certificates that the health department recognized, the developer could just get that certificate from the town, go to the health department with their application, and the health department would approve the use of that certificate. Because they don't recognize ours, we have to manually identify properties that the health department will approve, and it's just a much more drawn-out process. So the certificates would allow the health department to approve it very quickly.
A question, and maybe we discussed this before and I've forgotten, but if a developer uses the TDR for the sanitary flow, does that mean that then that land is unusable for yield?
Well, you mean the certificate?
Yeah, yes.
Correct. The certificate can be used for one thing only.
Okay, that's where.
Zoning density. If let's say their project doesn't comply with our zoning, and our zoning says 1 unit per acre, and they want to do 2 units per acre, so they get a development right to get that extra 1 unit per acre. They can't then use that certificate for clearing, for sanitary flow and things like that. By the same token, if they use it for sanitary flow, once that certificate's signed off, it's signed off.
It's sterilized.
The certificate is canceled out.
Okay.
It can't be used again.
Well, I guess I'm saying the land is sterilized. It can't be used
Well,
for anything else.
as soon as the certificate is issued on the property, the land is sterilized. There's either an easement on the property, or the land has been deeded to the town as open space.
Okay.
Yep.
I wish there's a mechanism to mandate that the zoning board of appeals require these before they grant area variances. I
Well,
guess you can't do that.
There are provisions in the code for the zoning board to do that, and they are doing it more often now when they get these requests for nonconformities, projects that don't comply with zoning, or carriage houses. They have been asking the applicants to document why they couldn't find development rights.
Okay.
So, just having the health department formally recognize our certificates, I think, makes them much more marketable for people
Yeah.
that are looking to use certificates. So, and it really doesn't change. I mean, we've always considered sanitary flow to be part of our development rights certificates, just as we consider clearing rights to be part of them. So it just will make the health department happy that we are recognizing them officially.
And,
Good.
and they can't, there's no limitation that it has to be in the school district, which is
Well,
for area variances.
There are different provisions in the code for when the rights have to come from the same school district. As you know, on old filed maps,
Yeah,
the code says that you can establish a policy for bringing in rights from other school districts, which you've done.
yeah.
Other types of uses of certificates cannot go across school district lines without town board approval. And there really haven't been too many of
No.
those. But sanitary flow, unless that sanitary flow is also needed for to comply with zoning, sanitary flow can go across school district lines
Yeah.
because it's not increasing your density.
Right.
If your project conforms with town zoning, and the only reason you need that TDR is for health department reasons, then you can bring your sewage credits from outside the same school district.
I think they want it in the same groundwater zone.
That's
Well,
They do-
that's where,
Same
Yes.
management zone.
that was
The
gonna
health
be my
department
next.
is the same groundwater management zone, but also they have these contributing zones for surface water
So you-
quality
So you
impacts.
can't use something from West Hampton in Southampton.
Well, if they were in the same groundwater management
Yeah.
zone, yes,
Well-
but that would be entirely up to the health department. If the health department says, no, yeah, it's in the same groundwater management zone, but it's too far away, they could deny it and then say, no, we won't allow that one.
So just a question in terms of the mechanism, how the law gets changed, or the code. The 9, 10, and 11 are the 3 places where this is referenced within the code, so those are like 3
No,
separate-
that's just on
or-
our
No, not 9,
agenda.
10, 11.
That's just on our agenda. In the code provisions, it's actually code section, was it 330-9?
330-7, 330-9, and chapter 244.
Right.
Are where this change,
Correct.
Will
Each
be
of-
in the town code.
Each of those chapters have
so
been.
that's why we have 3 items on the agenda, is because there's a code amendment in 330-9, a code amendment in 330-7,
Exactly.
and in chapter 244, which all has to do with this particular mechanism.
Correct,
Yes.
and
Thank
in
you.
all 3 of those codes,
Yep,
the only change we made was adding the words
makes sense.
sanitary flow
Mhm.
credits.
Yeah.
Every time it said, we referenced development right credits, we added and sanitary flow credits.
Yep. I'm surprised it's only 3.
Well, those are the 3
Places.
codes that deal with the mechanism of actually
Of TDR.
transferring rights. There's many codes that have the words TDR in them, but these are the codes that deal with how credits are allocated and how they're utilized.
Great, thanks.
So, Dave, were you thinking of just doing one, like, resolution in support of all
I think that
three?
would work. You could do one
Yeah.
reso that,
I mean, I think what you're hearing is we're all supportive of the code amendments and,
okay.
encourage that it helps foster the transfer of development rights and streamlines the process, which is consistent with the planning and zoning goals of the town.
And I guess that's what I was getting to, is basically like, we could produce one resolution that
Yeah,
authorizes
I
the
think-
changes in these sections of the
Right.
town code, right?
That'll
Yeah.
cover,
That
I
would
think
cover
that's
all.
what David.
Because the
Yeah.
town board is treating them all kind of as one.
Yeah.
They combined the hearing on all 3. They
Okay.
read the hearing notice, but
Yeah.
basically the hearing was on the
But they do
combined.
have to amend 3 different sections of the code, we
Which is
understand
why
that.
it's written individually, I guess.
So with that brief report of encouragement, do we have a motion to adopt the report?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria,
Second.
second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? And we have 6 yes. Dave, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. You
And
have one more.
I have
on
one
for us.
more, which is our very first agricultural conservation district. This is and I threw out all the extra maps, but you can just take a look at that aerial.
Pass it down.
That's the property.
Is this the Ludlow property?
This is the Ludlow property. The application is actually under the name of Foxtail Farm. It says LP. I guess it's an LP. They have 34.7 acres in Bridgehampton on Paul's Lane and Mecox Lane. And in the past, this would have been handled as an ag PDD. As the board knows, the town board eliminated the PDD provisions in the code, but they wanted to keep something that would be similar to the Ag PDD. So we revised the code, we've changed the name to Agricultural Conservation District. Rather than getting a change of zone to an Ag PDD designation, the change of zone is now to an Agricultural Conservation District.
It's an actual zone change?
It's a zoning
It's not an
change.
overlay?
It's not an overlay.
Okay.
No. Just like the Ag PDDs were a zone change. The zoning map got amended and it said Ag PDD on the zoning map.
District.
So this will say Ag Conservation District. And the easement document spells out what they can and can't do on the property. It basically reads just like an agricultural easement as far as, agriculture, what they can and can't do. The other provisions in the easement, though, spell out how they're restricted in terms of developing the property. So the Ag Conservation easement is for a minimum of 10 years. After 10 years expires, the applicant or the property owner could ask the town board to, well, actually, they can ask the town board at that point to terminate it, in which case the property would revert back to whatever development potential it had prior to the change of zone.
But they'd have to go for a hearing to revert it back.
No, not after.
If they're doing it as a zoning amendment, yes, they would.
We'll have to look at that. Yeah.
They probably wouldn't get opposition, presumably, but it could.
Yeah. The property owner has the right to terminate the easement after 10 years, no sooner than 10 years. Or if they don't take an action and write a letter to the town board asking to terminate, then the easement stays in effect until such time that they do ask.
So it doesn't automatically renew for another 10 years? It just goes day by day?
It goes day by day, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you describe the difference between agricultural conservation and an agricultural conservation district?
It's interchangeable. I mean,
But,
Well, ag conservation maps are actual development
Correct.
maps,
And-
where you're creating lots and creating 80% open space. That's an ag conservation
well,
map.
it's called a conservation opportunity subdivision.
Right, right. But where in this case, I think what we're hearing is there is no development. You cannot create house lots.
Well, that's what I'm getting to now. So the other part of the easement is that while the easement is in effect, and the development rights have been taken off the property, so the property owner's gonna give this easement to the town, they're gonna get a change of zone to ag conservation, and we are gonna give them a development rights certificate. And in this case, they're going to get 19.09 development rights. They can do whatever they want with those rights. They can sell them to a third party, transfer them away, or they can land them back on their property. But if they want to develop their property during the 10-year term of the easement, they can only do it as a conservation opportunity subdivision, which means 80%
Open space.
open space, ag reserve, and 50%
50%
reduction in
reduction,
density.
yeah.
So if the property yields 19.09 development rights, they're only gonna be able to develop the property with 8 house lots, which means they're gonna have 11 development rights left over that they can sell or offer to the town to purchase. The town is not obligated to buy these development rights. The property owner can offer them to the town. The town can do an appraisal, they can determine what they think it's worth, and they can make an offer. If the property owner doesn't want to accept that offer, they don't have to. And likewise, the town board doesn't even have to consider it. They don't have to make an offer. If they just say, no, we're not interested, that's it.
Dave, what happens at the end of it, when, like, if it does cease to exist anymore, what happens with the residual development rights, or if they've used the development rights
Correct.
already?
If they've used some of them, and we'll know how many they've used, because they're gonna, every time they sell a development right to
You're gonna track.
a third-party developer, they're gonna have to bring in their original right, it gets canceled out, and I reissue a new certificate for, let's say they sell one right to somebody, they'll get a new certificate for one less development right. After the 10 years, or at the point where they ask the town board to terminate the easement and terminate the zoning, they can then develop the property with the full development rights that they have left. If they've sold 2, then they're gonna have 2 less houses they could put back on the property. But they are required to do a cluster subdivision after the easement expires. Now, ideally, they will have sold most of their development rights, and at that point, they wouldn't have you know, the full number of rights to put back on the property. Or the town would have bought all the rights, or the town would have purchased the, you know, the fee title to the property. So,
I'm having a hard time understanding a 10-year life of this zone, but they can sell the rights, the development rights.
Maybe if you explain the purpose, like what's the benefit to the
Well-
town, why they want to do this?
yeah, I think it just buys time for the property owner, and it also prevents the town board from upzoning their property. When this easement is in place, their underlying CR 80 zoning stays in effect. So that when they do go to develop, they would have to develop it in accordance with CR 80. It's, believe me.
Can I ask you a question? I'm just trying, why do they need a zone change? Like, why can't they just enter into an easement agreement?
I guess we could have written the code that way, but the ag PDDs were a change of zone.
Right.
And they didn't want to mess with the format of the code too much, so they just kept it as a change of zone. But rather than call it an ag PDD zoning, they called it an ag conservation district zoning. I don't know. You're right, though. We maybe could have done it with just an easement.
An easement, you know, wouldn't then require a public hearing and.
Well, it would. It
It
would
would.
require
Or
a
it
hearing
does.
to accept the easement
To accept
and to
the
accept the terms of the easement and the restrictions that the easement would put on the property. But it wouldn't require a hearing on a change of zone.
Is there, but
Right.
we're not, is the town purchasing anything on that initial easement? No.
Nope.
So it's just an easement agreement. So they're basically, it's like a temporary donation or a temporary
Right.
freeze.
Yep. It's a temporary
It's
freeze.
temporary, but
Somebody
they,
holding
but
their rights
they
to
could,
sell.
it's temporary, but they could sell the development rights.
Right, which is good. That's what we want.
To land
That's what we want to
elsewhere.
happen. We want those development rights to
And then they'll
disappear.
lose them on the
So that
farm.
they're never landed back on that property and that property stays as farmland.
So, I'm a little lost here. If they sell a percentage of the TDRs available, then what happens?
Well, in this case, they're going to get 19 development rights.
Right.
If they sell 10 of those, and then they want to come back and develop it after 10 years,
Yeah.
they're only going to be able to do 9 lots.
Okay, so the a portion of the land is being extinguished with each TDR sold?
Correct.
and-
That's
and-
correct.
Okay, then.
And in fact, it's .91 acres of additional farmland for every development right that they sell.
Okay.
But along the lines of the TDR, are they allowed to bring rights in that school district and re-land them there?
I don't think our TDR code allows you to land development rights
Outside the
on
school district.
farmland.
On farm,
Are you-
okay.
So you're saying buy additional development rights from
Yeah.
somebody else and then,
And then
um,
transfer them over.
like replenish the
And
opportunity.
You can
Replenish
make
the
that a
ones that they
part-
sold?
You can make that a part of the easement that they can't, because then that goes
Mm.
against the
Yeah.
reason why you would have done it in the first place.
That's something that should be.
I think there are already provisions in our code that don't let you land development rights on farmland above and beyond what the property already has a yield for, but.
But in this
Yeah,
case,
but
this
this
would
case-
They
be,
could replenish
Bring
it.
back up from, if they sold 10 and they left with
Yeah, yeah,
9,
yeah.
then they can bring back 10 again to bring it back up to the yield.
Right.
Wow, that's a really good point.
So,
That's a
um,
good question.
You're making us
Christine,
think, Dave.
If they did go with the easement, right, and put an ag easement on there, is that more difficult to undo? I mean, basically, this acknowledges that not every farmer who owns land is gonna wanna complete their estate plan at this very moment, but this gives them flexibility of a 10-year runway to
That's
figure out
exactly
what's
right.
gonna happen next
That's
and
correct.
sell off those development rights or preserve their right to have that property exist for future generations as farmland or as an opportunity to develop, right? Whereas if you add an ag easement on there, it's committing now, right, that this is gonna be farmland in perpetuity. So this is really smart that it acknowledges the fact that people might wanna have a little more time to figure it out.
It's
Right,
exactly
and
right.
it's just, you can do it by either, you're gonna need a public hearing in either event, it's just
Mm-hmm.
with the change of zones tend to be a little bit more, I don't know why, but they're just a little bit more, complicated than a straight
Dave-
easement.
Yeah.
Dave, are you generating a report on 51.1 and .3, or just on this specific? Because I don't think we ever weighed in on this whole concept, the whole change of 330, 51,
Oh, yeah, the Ag Conservation District?
Yeah, did we ever generate a report on that?
Sure, that was a town board, local law to enact this code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
and that was done quite a while ago.
quite a while ago.
It's been 5 years maybe.
Okay, so it's just this particular,
It's just this particular application. The code says that an application for an Ag PDD zoning has to be referred to the planning board
okay.
because it's a change of zone. It also has, it's
Right.
at the Suffolk County Planning Commission.
So then my one comment would be, since it's a negotiated, change of zone and with public interest, there should be inclusion to preclude the plant out of buffer plantings. This is common, you know, since the public now has an interest. It's really the views and the vistas, view shed that is really the public benefit, and there should be some sort of provision to prevent, you know, screening. I think Sagaponic Village has specific language
Let me see if that's in
to
here.
that effect.
I'll make a note of that, and if it's in here, then the
Yeah.
town board doesn't need
It
to
might be in
address it,
there,
I
but-
think it might be in here already.
Yeah.
And the aerial shows wetlands on that property. Is there any provision regarding the wetlands?
Yeah, it does go down to the wetlands,
Well, they're restricted just as they would normally be restricted, you know. They're pretty much, I mean, the whole property is used as a cow pasture right now.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
they have the dairy.
And they have, I mean, the fencing does not go into the wetlands. And there are exceptions under our wetland law for agriculture, as far as the buffers and setbacks, but they're not using the land right up against the wetlands at this point.
So let's try, if the language is not in there, we should try to get it in there.
Okay.
Especially for this parcel, because there's a lot of road frontage.
Yep, absolutely. And the other point I'm gonna put into the report is about making sure that they can't replenish development rights, and basically, I mean, I guess you could sell one development right for, you know, 500,000, and then go buy another development right for 100,000,
Right.
and get your rights back on your property.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Who brought that up?
I did.
You get the
Am I
trophy
thinning
today.
that, all these cookies in the.
He's-
The sugar high just from inhaling.
Yeah.
Does this
So
change the
just-
assessment of the property in any way?
The town board asked that same question, and, I mean,
Oh, good.
technically, when you put an easement on your property, it does affect the value.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's somewhere in our code where it says the assessor should take that into consideration when they do their assessments. So,
Because, so, like, before, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, it was like, it's black or it's white. Like, you're gonna keep your development rights, or you're gonna put an easement and take them away and achieve the tax relief of that. And many farmers were just like, well, forget it, I'll just sell my land because I'm not sure what's gonna happen in the future. But this allows them that 10-year runway to plan, preserve the opportunity as well as the land for that moment, and achieve the tax benefit in the meantime of just saying, hey, let's slow down for a minute. Whereas a lot of them, if they weren't ready to just like sell off the development rights and their future generation, you know, they didn't know if they were gonna farm it still, then they're getting creamed on their taxes because the development rights are still on there. This gives a nice gray area of a runway, which is really smart.
yeah. And I also think it helps for inheritance purposes, because
Right.
if you can transfer the ownership to heirs without the development rights on the property,
Yeah.
the value of
The
that
value is
transfer
less.
is.
Of that
That-
transfer
less.
too.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was
So
the
it's
whole
really-
genesis for development rights,
Mhm.
going
Mhm.
back, 20 years.
Now, the easement on here, will this be the new enhanced easement that they've been using, which it allows animal husbandry, row crops, but it precludes,
Polo fields.
It is not written in the sense of the enhanced easements, no.
No.
It's very similar to the typical subdivision ag easement.
I mean, that might be worthwhile commenting on. Because it allows animal husbandry, which is what they're now. It allows row crops, but it precludes nursery stock and certain agricultural structures like indoor riding arenas, things like that.
That's a good point.
And the language is already there. so
Yeah,
they were not
I mean,
reinvented.
if the applicant is willing, that should be standard operating procedure, I would hope, for the town when any additional ag,
Well, the only thing about the enhanced easements is that the town recognizes that there's an increased value for an enhanced easement, and they pay more money for an enhanced easement. Now, we're not paying anything for this easement. This is just a voluntary easement.
well, that's why I said,
It is a
assuming the applicant
negotiable
was.
easement with the town board. I
Yeah.
suppose the town board could say, well, we would like to preclude horse farms and nurseries.
Nurseries.
Yeah.
That would have to be specifically spelled out,
Yeah.
because under ag and markets law, you could do that.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know what.
It's at the end of the day, every easement is a negotiated easement.
I'm just suggesting that that should be the starting point for the town moving forward. If the applicant says no, or I want a bazillion more dollars, that's, you have that
Well, as I said, in
conversation.
this case, there's no money changing hands
Yeah.
for this easement. They're not buying this easement. But,
And Dave?
They're, I mean, in a way, they're like in reverse, right? Because they're reducing their revenues of tax
yes.
income, so there's a value
I
exchange
mean, the town
there.
board raised the question about whether this easement allows ag labor housing. And the way it was written, it does, because most of the ag reserve easements on subdivisions
Yeah.
allow for ag labor housing as an accessory to agriculture.
Yeah.
But that could be negotiated out also. If the town board says, we really don't want this easement to have ag labor housing, they could present that to the property owner and say, we'd like you to take that out.
Yeah.
Dave, it might be worth looking at this, and I don't know if this would be yours, but just a comment. Peconic Land Trust just recently did a deal with Southold Town and Suffolk County up in Cutchogue with a number of acres on Oregon Road.
Okay.
And they did an RFP where I guess the land is transferred to Peconic Land Trust, or the town or the county owns it. But they're prioritizing the RFP for food production in agriculture. So there's some sort of mechanism for that where you could, rather than saying not this, not this, not this as ag and markets law, but just saying a priority towards whatever type of agriculture, food production, expressing a preference, and then like if they were unable to find someone to do that function, it could fall then into those other areas. But just examining the intent, and I don't know the mechanism, but if the intent is to preserve agriculture for food production, then maybe there's a way of specifying a preference,
Mhm.
and if that's not available, doing something else.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the land trust manages those
Yeah,
farmers.
that's
and-
where it's a little different.
And I think
because they're
that's
Well,
what,
it's a
managing the
different
property.
deal.
yeah, which the
it's
town
a-
doesn't do.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different scenario. In this case, it was a private landowner that they took the development rights off and I believe donated it to the trust. So, I mean, it is a different mechanism, but
Mhm.
it's worth
No, but I
looking
see the
at.
point. Rather than say you know,
Define
horse farms and
something
nurseries are
out,
prohibited,
exclude.
it could
Yeah.
say something to the effect, you know, agricultural production as defined by ag and markets with a preference towards food
Toward-
production.
Because that's historically what's being excluded because of the economics,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
And Dave, what about special event permits?
The town board asked that same,
Preclude, right.
same question. This easement doesn't reference whether they can have special events on the property or not. As you probably know, there are ag easements that the planning board has gotten on different ag reserves that are on subdivisions that have been used for special events. And they get permits from the town board. The property owner said it was very unlikely that they would ever use this for a special event since it's a cow pasture. And it would be somewhat difficult to have some sort of special event.
Yeah, they just
They
give
should
out
put
big high
something,
rubber boots.
just with
Yeah,
the
that-
amendments that might be proposed, they should, if they do want to prohibit it, they should put it in there.
Yeah,
Right, right. I mean, I remember from, my old days here, there were some real problematic issues with particular properties
mhm.
making a tremendous amount of money and causing a lot of issues.
Right. Okay, so I'll add that.
Okay, do you have enough to generate a report?
Absolutely.
I think it's-
I've got four major points here.
Great. So with those points, can we adopt a motion to?
Do we want to see the report?
Do you want to, are you ready? They're waiting for it, right?
They're hoping to act on this
So it's
at their
right
next
on my brain.
meeting, which would be 2 weeks from Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's not gonna make your next meeting.
Yeah, so we should.
I can certainly circulate it to you before I
Because
send it.
I think we've sort of thrown a lot of
Yeah,
complex.
let me circulate it to you before I give it to the town board.
Okay, but we should adopt it today, all right?
As it's
Yeah, otherwise-
proposed,
Otherwise
the
we-
benefits far outweigh any of the,
Yeah.
I think, the comments that we've added. That's just
We'll-
my opinion.
We'll be outside our window
Yeah,
to respond.
yeah, so if you can adopt it
Yeah.
today, and then I'll send you the report. If you want to edit it before I give it to the town board, you can make. your
Yeah,
own.
that's a good point. We
Yeah.
can always circle back to you. Good. So do we have a motion to adopt the report?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 yes.
Dave, do you
Dave,
want
thank
this?
you so much.
Oh, yeah, that was my only copy.
Thanks. Take care.
All right, thank you, everyone.
It's still
Anthony,
going.
are you stepping
Still
in,
going.
or-
Exact same issues.
Jeff, are you going to start us off?
Yes.
Okay, tell us where you're taking us.
Yeah, let's start with agenda item number 1.
All right.
This will be a quick one. This is today we're reviewing for completeness. This is a lot line modification application for 28 and 32 South Beach Road. Just pull this up for you. And pass these out to you too. There's 3 maps in there.
All right, so we'll share. Okay.
You can share it. so-
You guys share.
The application is to consider, is a request for a lot line modification which proposes to transfer 16,109 square feet between two adjacent properties. It's located in R60 zoning district, also located within the New York State archaeological sensitive area, the high priority water quality improvement zone, and as well as the cultural resource protection overlay district. These lots were created with a minor subdivision back in 1991 called or entitled Alfred Monique A. Romeo. The 2 lots do have 2 easements, conservation easements on the water side, and there's also a driveway easement which gives access to both lots. On the map, you can see the request and change of the 16,189 square feet. It does not impact the common driveway easement, and does not impact either buffer areas established on the property. So after review, the application submission includes all the paperwork required for a proper review. So I'd like to recommend that we deem this complete and schedule a public hearing for, let's see, I believe July 8th.
July 8th?
11th.
I'm sorry, was that the 11th?
11th, I believe, yes.
13th?
Should be right, 13th.
The 13th, okay, great. There's a
July
motion?
13th, 6 p.m.
Incomplete and scheduled hearing for July 13th. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion
Second.
by Gloria and second by Craig. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, 6 yes. And you're gonna keep, Anthony, are you jumping in now, or
Yes.
Okay.
I've got next.
Frith? Are we going to Jane Frith?
Yes, let me just pull up an aerial actually, so it's not here.
board's familiar with this, right? We've had discussions. This is the property up on Bridgehampton, Sag Harbor Turnpike, that an application for a density incentive subdivision has come in, which would allow for a number of market rate lots, and then in this case, they're proposing 3 affordable lots. Purpose of this discussion today, it's just a discussion. We're in the middle of, we haven't, this is a type 1 action, largely driven by the fact that it's also in the ag overlay district. Obviously, this property's got significant wetlands. Board was made aware of the DEC involvement because of the tiger salamander. We haven't coordinated yet for 2 reasons. Number one, we're trying to gather all the information. DEC has come in. And then the second big issue is the question of yield. How many, when you're dealing with a density incentive, the very first question is what's the baseline? How many conforming lots under the applicable zoning, CR 80 or R 80 in this case, can you get? And I'll acknowledge, while a standard subdivision plan isn't what we would do here, we would do a cluster plan. A standard yield plan has to be real. It has to be not theoretical. It's got to be something that this board could approve or consider for approval, and the lots really have to be buildable. So that was that. I had Jim Walker come from InterScience today. He's going to talk to you about the DEC stuff, okay? Which is what I wanted to. But let me just bear with me because there's a lot of maps here. And it's in color. So, and I will say to the board, we're ultimately going to have to come back because I've got to do something written as it relates to yield. But I wanted to at least get the DEC stuff on the record and begin the conversation. So when you look at, a yield map like this, some of the questions that get raised, for example, are, in here. Building setbacks as it relates to property lines are okay, but once you apply the wetland setbacks for construction and a sanitary system at 150 feet, you can sort of see what we're left with here on these 2 lots in particular.
Those areas, are there areas that could support sanitary, or?
I don't have any, nothing's laid out here, but it looks small to me. The other side of it is, if you look on here, for example, this right-of-way shows like a pocket of wetlands encroaching into that.
Yeah, I think we talked about that.
We have
bunch of months ago.
Yeah. So, it's those issues, obviously, I think, as it relates to yield. I want to start off with Jim, though, talking about the DEC stuff, because that's the tiger salamander issue. They've issued a no permit necessary as it pertains to a subdivision layout, but there was a lot of things that went on. There's a buffer requirement because of the tiger salamander, and this is sort of out of my wheelhouse a little bit, so I asked InterScience to come so he could talk to the board about what the DEC has done as it relates to this. Is that okay?
Great. Sure. Jim, welcome. You can use the table if you want.
Come on up, Jim.
You got it all fully mic'd now, and make life easy for you.
I'm used to pointing at plans, not screens.
Hi, Tim. Welcome.
All right. When we first were brought in on this project, we had a meeting with Jackie Fenlon downstairs. I don't think Anthony was there, but we had a lot yield, and we were told to maximize the affordable housing aspect of the project. Jane Frith wants to put affordable housing on the property. There are 2 CPF lots. The CPF lots are intended to be sold to the town in the back of the property to provide an economic incentive for Jane Frith to move ahead with the subdivision. Those directives were provided to me in detail. And then I went to the state. So at the state, we get a no permit necessary letter, but it tells you you have to deal with Article 11, which is tiger salamander issues. When you deal with tiger salamander issues at the state, you deal with Kevin Jennings. He's the head of that particular program, and he's somebody that I know for a lot of years, and tiger salamander issues are something that I've dealt with personally for a number of projects. It took me approximately 1 year to resolve things with Kevin Jennings. And then I was told to come back to the planning board and hammer out the easement, and that's where we sit today. Before we get involved with too much of the details about the Tiger Salamander issues, we had another affordable housing lot there. And then they were told, the project sponsor was told to
You're
eliminate.
gonna have to hold those
Oh,
up
I'm
as
sorry.
most of us
I'll
can't.
hold it up for you. So here, we're showing the 3 affordable lots over here. Initially, they were contemplating 4.
Yes, but then there was a change in, I think Dave Wilcox or something looked at it and said that you could only have 3. But she originally wanted to have 4.
So-
Because she feels strongly about,
So we're talking about 3 affordable housing lots. We're talking about 2 community preservation lots. And we're talking about,
there's existing.
there's 3 houses, 3 lots, and Jane Frith is gonna keep these 2 lots. And she has a family, this is a family-owned property, she got this property from her parents. There was a brick oven here, they made bricks out of those ponds which are dug into the clay, and that is where all the bricks are, they're still there, you can go over there and pick one up, have a souvenir. It's kind of fun, it's a neat thing, but these ponds are not natural. These ponds were dug, and they were dug for clay. It's an old-timey thing, you're next to Clay Pits Road. Putting affordable housing along this area is probably going to fit in nicely, so the project seemed to be on good footing. We went to the state, we met with Kevin Jennings extensively, and what you need to know is I received a letter back from Kevin Jennings February 2nd, 2021. If it sounds like a long time ago, it was. He told me what to do. So on October 4th, 2021, we submitted work back to the DEC. We were getting close. January 11th, he sent me another directive on what to do. I'll explain the what to do's in length. On February 3rd, I sent it back to Kevin Jennings, and now we're told to go to the planning board and get your approval. The, go to the AutoCAD plan.
Okay,
The-
hold it up.
Our plan is more descriptive in terms of how to protect tiger salamanders. This isn't a taking plan, there's no drift fence, there's nothing like at the Children's Museum.
Just one other thing I may add, this one does still show the 4th, affordable lot there.
My plan shows 4 affordable housing lots, basically what Jackie Fenlon told us to do when we first started working on the project. Not important. The part that's important is we have to increase the wetlands buffers in these areas, on these lots. There's a little lot here, there's a little lot here, there's a little lot here, and then there's 2 market lots that Jane Frith is gonna keep for her family. And then there's 4 affordable housing lots that became 3, right here. Now,
And those are the 4 lots on the upper right-hand corner.
those
Yeah.
were 4 planned affordable housing lots. Now we're down to 3.
Are
So
the
be
3
it.
outside of that 537-foot,
They're outside.
that, right,
We don't have tiger salamander jurisdiction problems here.
okay.
We don't have tiger salamander jurisdictions here, and in fact, all the areas north and outside of the orange are considered net benefit. But the state was told, CPF lots, 4 affordable housing lots, 2 market lots, and the 3 houses that were there. What does that mean to the planning board? The planning board is expected to review this project and tell the attorney to draw up easements on these lots. And we're going to replant those easement areas that are open, because there are some areas that are open. And again, mostly it's because of the the brick operation at the site. But you plant it to reclamation mix. Reclamation mix is mostly switchgrass, but it's also a little blue stem. It's drill seeded, it's not expensive. It will allow this lady to finish her subdivision and resolve her family's ownership of the property and create 3 affordable housing lots. We have to plant those.
Can I just understand it? So are they saying the DEC is saying to plant that and that will mitigate the impact those 3 houses or those 3 lots are having because they are inside the 537-foot?
That's essentially correct, and the actual DEC correspondence has been provided to Anthony. It's easy for the board to track the progress that we made, but we have to plant all this. We intend to plant it to reclamation mix because that's an affordable way for the lady to do it. It's also not disruptive to tiger salamanders. Tiger salamanders, you don't want to go in there and bulldoze things. There's only one thing that's in there that's of any interest at all. She does have planters in the easement area. The planters have to go. They're real planters. She has a garden there. I told her she can't have everything. If she wants to have 2 CPF lots and 3 affordable housing lots and 2 market lots left, we have to do all this work. DEC wants to have a split rail fence at the edges of the easement. It's kind of normal. It keeps people out of the easement areas. I think the development proposal is pretty sound. It's ready to go. We did do a yield plan for this project. I believe it was in 2019. I forgot that we did it. Anthony asked for it. And I asked the graphics people downstairs, and they said, yeah, we did it. So you have a yield plan in front of you. So there's your yield plan.
And that's the one we were just looking at, board, where, you know, obviously I raised some of the questions
There's
about.
plenty of room for sanitary systems to put them in the front yard. That's okay. They are skinny building envelopes because of wetlands areas, but in my opinion, having an 8-lot yield and providing 11 lots with 2 to go to CPF and 3 to go to the affordable housing program is a good project for the town. I would urge the town to approve 4 affordable housing lots, but that's because I have a kid that wants to live in Southampton. I think the project has been vetted carefully at New York State DEC. Anthony can call up Kevin Jennings, and a month later he'll get to talk to the guy. He's a very busy guy, but we carefully went through all the issues. It's in black and white, it's in front of you, and you have a subdivision in front of you that's engineered and ready to go. It probably needs to have all the easements shown more carefully and make sure that we're doing everything that DEC asked for, because when and if the planning board says, okay, we have to take the project back in terms of layout and easements, bonds, performance bonds, maintenance bonds, and a fence, back to Kevin Jennings at DEC, and then we'll get an Article 11 correspondence, which says we did what we were supposed to.
May I ask a question? Okay, so on this map here, which is the cluster plan, okay, or a cluster plan, obviously it's going to change with just 3. This 535 foot, okay, I see that you got to do the reclamation. My question is, because I found it a little confusing to read through all this stuff, but these lots in here, will these require a taking permit from the DEC?
Nope.
Okay.
Taking permits implies a drift fence like at the Children's Museum, a drift fence like at Row Industry Superfund site. The planning board has handled tiger salamander jobs before with curbs and all kinds of stuff. We are not talking about any taking permits. We're not talking about excluding animals from this side and putting them over here with a drift fence and a bucket system. None of that has to take place. We are outside of that, and what we have to do is plant that. And again, I think it should be drill planted to reclamation mix. We use it on the roads. Marty Shea has approved it in subdivision reviews over the years when he was involved with street trees. I don't know if he still is or not, but reclamation mix is something that we can rely on. It will take this area and convert it back to grassland, which will revert back to woodlands, and eventually this area will all be more natural. It's a good idea.
Has Marty weighed in on this specifically?
yet?
Not yet, because we don't have a complete application, because we gotta, get complete that secret and complete, and then we do our referral. So Marty hasn't. Certainly as part of the secret review, I don't
You don't
have
get referred, right, when you do your,
We typically, so that's good with the DEC. Obviously, I want the board to understand what the DEC is requiring, since they're the ones who are going to require, the.
Why did it go from 4 to 3? Affordable lots.
Ask Karen.
Karen.
Originally Kyle Collins was the director, and he worked with Jacqueline. We had 4, but then Dave Wilcox looked at it and said it had to be reduced, and we didn't want to have a discussion.
The lots were too small or something?
No, I don't know.
It might have been based on yield. In other words, the number of density incentive is based on
there's
your
less,
initial
yeah.
starting yield. So if they're starting off on a yield that is higher than what the town thinks, and then obviously
So we
the
didn't want to
incentive is
have
that.
we knew it was going to take a long time with the DEC. And also, look at this, all the development is along the road. And so much of this 23-acre parcel is being preserved.
There's another consideration besides what Karen's bringing up. Jane Frith is elderly.
Yes.
She has a family who's depending on her to get this resolved while she's still here. So we're trying our best to
Yes.
move the project along and get
Yes.
to the point where she can sell 2 CPF lots. The affordable housing program, she wanted it. The
She's
town
for it, yes.
wanted it. It seemed like a no-brainer. The Tiger Salamander issues are complicated,
Yes.
but there are easements that Karen can draw up. They are bonds, which the town will review and put in place, and we need to put a fence. A split rail fence is a terrible idea because they fall apart. However, it keeps people out of the wetlands buffer. If it's planted, it's going to grow up. Switchgrass grows 3 or 4 feet the first year. It's not a real problem, as long as we're not relying on a split rail fence to keep the dogs away from the ponds, it's okay. So that's what the DEC wanted. It's in black and white. If Anthony calls up Kevin Jennings, he will be able to confirm all the things that I submitted back and forth. And he's aware of the plan, and he's expecting the town to approve something similar to this, but with all the easements on it, with all the performance and maintenance bonds that are needed, and a fence. Those are the things that Kevin
Karen,
Jennings.
so the easements you would draft are to basically implement what the DEC would like
And they would have to
done.
approve the easements as
They-
well.
they-
It'll be on top of the ones that we
And
would
also
do
with-
towards any.
with
They
Christine,
they
we
has
have
to be
to
part
work.
of the easement review process in a draft form.
Yes.
In other words, Karen draws it up, we submit it to the town. When the town
And all
decides
this.
they're okay, we submit them to Kevin Jennings, more or less at the same time, to try to get the review process done before Jane Frith is
Yes, I mean,
unable to deal with all these issues.
that's why we didn't want to get in that density argument with Dave Wilcox, who's been here forever.
Anthony,
I like Dave so much.
Yeah, you said there were some yield issues?
Well, I'm raising the question about, so let's, they're showing here 8. Think about, again, about a yield map is not really supposed to be theoretical. It's supposed to be a standard plan and an option for the planning board to approve. In other words, the planning board can turn around and say, we like the standard plan, we don't need a cluster plan. But it's got to be something that meets setbacks, has building envelopes, so. And this is also at an 80 scale, so to be fair to the applicant, these look smaller than, the scale would imply, but I'm raising the question, because I have to, again, this is not gonna be the design, but when you're doing a yield, like I said, we're showing a road that has a pocket of wetlands in there that we wouldn't normally allow on a plan, and constrained building envelopes. Listen, we're balancing. I appreciate the fact that someone's come and said they want to do affordable housing, particularly in this part of town. We just don't have any. But I'm trying to balance here, and I just have to be comfortable with the yield, so I could at least say, okay, here's the yield, and here's what the density incentive is, and I apologize for not having the answer today. The other side of it is, this is InterScience's plan, which is beautiful to look at, but ultimately, Squires and Holden, is that the
Yes.
we have to have a yield plan.
But you have
But it's different than this one, so I don't know which, what I'm looking at.
Well, how is the Squires and Yield? Because we went through pre-application.
Well, yeah, But, well, no one, yeah, well, I don't know, they didn't raise some of the questions at the time.
So in order for you to move forward, you just need to know what our preference is, so you can finalize the drawings to submit your complete application, and then we can go through the secret process, is that?
Yeah, in other
really
words,
what
well, we
our-
have to coordinate because it's a type 1 action, because
Yeah,
it's in the ag
coordinate.
overlay district. My big thing is, it's just getting the yield hammered down. All these other issues, we could deal with in terms of design, but the first question is, what is the underlying yield? Is it 8? Is it 7? You know what I mean? Is it this, or is it something
And
less
more
than this?
importantly, can you get access that comply to the wetlands?
Right, that's always been an issue on when you're dealing with wetlands parcels is.
So, I mean, it sounds like then we need a new map that shows the 3 affordable
Yeah,
lots.
and I think we actually, we
And-
do have a subdivision map that
We have a
shows,
subdivision
we do have a subdivision map, but the yield map, we don't have,
We have it.
With the setbacks for the building envelopes.
Yes, we have a subdivision map. This was submitted in December.
Yeah. No, we do have a cluster plan, and the one that we were just
With
looking that shows, with setbacks, that shows the 3 affordable lots here. We have the cluster plan, we have building envelopes, there's no question about that. Interestingly, on the cluster plan, on the 1 CPF lot, when you apply the 535-foot setback, I don't know what that means for the town, but these would be the 2 CPF properties back here. So those would be off the table ultimately. 3 affordable up here, the 3 existing houses, and then Ms. Frith would retain the 2 market rates.
Why is CPF buying lots as opposed to buying railroads? We're creating lots that don't comply.
Say it
with-
again.
Why is CPF buying?
Because there are always more money. You can get
I
more
know
money,
that, I know that. I
right?
needed you to say that on the
So,
record, because, I mean,
yes.
we
That's
can't
why,
create
yes.
building lots that can't get building permits.
I understand.
Those lots on the yield plan are fully buildable. I don't agree that there's a question on 8 lots versus 7 lots. They show building envelopes, they show wetland setbacks. Creating sanitary systems on those lots is a doable thing. The real problem is, we were told to do this, and we did it, and we're showing 4 affordable housing lots because that's what the town told us to do. And all the development is on the road, where it should be, and we're protecting all of this. And what's the choice to Jane Frith? She's done this for now, since 2019 with our office, and she's unable to economically afford to do this and keep pushing things forward without some incentive. The incentive is to sell 2 lots in the back. If she wanted to sell the whole property, I'm sure CPF would want the whole property. But that's not the deal that was proposed by the town in 2019. We were asked to put the 4 affordable housing lots here and 2 market lots here, build around the 3 lots there and put 2 CPF lots there.
What
We
if the
did.
town doesn't want the lots? What happens then?
Well, now that's a rotten deal for Jane Frith, because she's been led around in a circle
already
for 3
went-
Well,
years.
subject to public hearing. I mean,
Yes.
it may not be any fault of their own. The public
Yeah.
comes out in opposition and they don't feel it's appropriate. What's the backup plan?
I think the town wants CPF lots.
They may, I'm just asking.
I know the Trails Advisory really want this property, and she's been approached by them, so I would find that hard to believe that the town would
Does
buy.
do those 2 lots kind of back up to other open space or anything?
It does. It's right next to what used to
Greenbelt,
be
right?
the shooting range.
Skellinger.
Skellinger.
Oh,
Scavenger,
right,
but now
right.
they're no longer shooting birds.
Because they
He
had to kill,
retired or
no,
something.
they had to kill all the birds because they had
Oh, they had
that
the flu?
avian
And
flu.
then they
And-
gave up.
And so
They
then he
don't
gave up
raise-
because he
they
said,
don't
I'm
raise
too
pheasants
old
anymore.
to start over.
The pheasants at Cow come from Pennsylvania.
So Tom, if you just look up here, all this is preserved, the lots would be back here. This is all, well, you can see everything's
Yeah.
preserved. So,
2-part question for you regarding the affordability. What's the qualifying criteria for affordability on these lots? And are there going to be covenants?
yeah, there'll be covenants,
Yes.
and she's
And
not
then
gonna be able to
whatever
answer that
the-
question.
Whatever the town's regulations are, she's full out, wants them to be
Okay.
affordable. And they're right on the turnpike, so there's
Yeah.
public buses going by to Sag Harbor, Southampton.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, just looking at that, I had another subdivision that the state does allow a T-shaped, which maybe George knows about, but I've seen, instead of a
Termination instead of a
cul-de-sac,
cul-de-sac.
a T-set, yeah, because I had another, not in this town, but they do allow, but there's an issue. And then another question I posed to Anthony, because it's been going on for a while, but, okay, let's say the density's 7, could we still have the 3 or 4, the same number of lots?
Well,
Because don't we get an incentive for having affordable?
If you're
I'm
doing
just-
7, your density incentive then would be 3 lots, yes. It would-
So then we'd be up to 10, and
you
what do
still
we have
get to 10.
now?
And I think you're showing,
I'm sorry, I
that's
just,
okay.
because I just
You
discount.
gotta go to the next generation.
Yeah,
Oh,
the next generation.
It's 11.
So it's 11, okay.
So it's 11, so it'd be the difference, you know.
And another,
So that's the big question, and, you've alluded to it.
but then we
is-
had 4 with 8. We had 4
That's
accessory
12.
apartments, with 12 with 8. So then when we go down to 7, we don't have 11? It's, no.
No, we don't round up, I'm pretty
Okay.
sure the code is.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Kyle
We
had
always round
rounded
down.
up, that's what
Yeah.
happened in
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
2000.
You know-
We
He
don't
had
have-
rounded up, and then he left, and I guess Janice, I don't know, Dave Wilcox was then referred to him, so that's what happened.
Yeah, because really,
the
like,
code-
there's
So
no
they,
like
that's what they did,
interpretation,
they.
it's math.
That's what they did, I know, I'm sorry, that's what happened.
Yeah.
They rounded up, and we didn't want to we didn't have time, because we're going, the DEC, we knew it was going to take a long time, so that's what happened. So that's how we ended up with that, so,
Karen, very early in my tenure, we were presented with a map
yes.
to create lots, building lots that were to be then donated to the Nurture Conservancy. And it became a big brouhaha with the attorney's office, and accountants, that they really had to be bona fide building lots with.
Okay.
And this actually predated the wetlands law. And they just were not suitable building lots, and it would have been looked askance at by the IRS.
That's.
And I think we're looking at a similar situation here. We're
So-
creating these CPF lots that do
Yes.
not comply with our code.
Well, you know what? That's a good point. I was just thinking,
They co-
maybe
they
if
comply
we
with
combine
the
them,
code.
maybe, would there be a building lot if they were combined?
Well,
Because they
let's-
must be worth more if they were combined, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I'm not
No,
gonna
no.
say that, I'm not an
How did
appraiser,
how
but-
did they not come?
Isn't the access,
Comply.
doesn't
The
the
access
access
is-
go
Well, because of
through
the
the
wetlands,
wetlands?
so
Yeah,
you
that's-
potentially cross it
It
close to the
doesn't go through the
wetlands.
wetlands.
Does it meet the
It
setbacks?
does,
Well, the driveways would not meet setbacks or anything like
Right.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they don't have access.
So they don't have access. You're putting the board into, and I don't know about these conversations, what deals and what meetings you had or what you were told, but here we are. You're asking the board to do things that, I mean, we love the
so
affordable housing.
you're
and-
saying there's no access now to the back lots, or?
Well, could you show us how the access complies?
Flagpole's right there.
Complies with the wetland setbacks?
In other words, the construction activity,
Yeah.
technically, you're supposed to be 100, whatever.
Well, if you have a common
disturbance.
driveway,
Can we get a common driveway meeting the 100-foot setback?
Like that, the wetlands almost infringe on that.
Well, it would have, well, yeah, I mean, we're not gonna meet the setbacks from, the wetlands here, in the
you
back.
can't go over here?
But this is a wetlands over here,
Oh,
by the
sorry,
way,
I can't
also.
see.
Yeah, I know.
And there's wetlands on the front side too, right? Going up from.
There's wetlands here. There's 2 dug ponds and another one there.
I mean, the town could purchase the land without having to create house lots.
Then subdivide off the backside and let's be done with the whole thing and give her
Yeah.
3 affordable housing lots and 2 market lots and those 3 houses, and
There
the
you
town
go.
can take
It's
the
a
rest
cleaner
of the
deal.
property.
Don't you agree?
We
Okay, I'm gonna
have
say
done
do
the
that.
same exact thing with the project that you're gonna review shortly, where we drew up subdivision plans and then we pared it down to, this is the town
Oh,
and this
yeah,
is.
Camp Jerome.
This is,
Can't do it.
this is Camp Jerome.
Yeah,
So can you do that? Sure, you can do that. It's not gonna change anything to do with the DEC, except they're gonna be kind of surprised that these aren't CPF lots. But if this all went to the town and Jane Frith was able to afford to resolve her family concerns there, and there was 3 affordable housing lots, then Kieran would be done.
And it's a cleaner deal.
Okay,
But
so you're
Christine,
saying,
the CPF, isn't the number derived by the amount of buildable lots? Isn't it?
I just know that we have purchased, and we've purchased from old file maps, we've purchased little tiny pieces,
Right.
fractions of development, so I don't know that that's necessarily the case.
Yeah, it's based on appraisal. So that area will be appraised and.
I don't think my client cares.
would it be the development rights or the whole thing?
Well, the area you're going to buy, the actual fee title,
I don't know.
It's
about
all of
that.
this.
yeah.
She might sell the development rights. I don't know if she wants to give up.
In order to sell development rights, you have to have development rights.
Yeah, well, Dave is gonna take a map now.
You could
He's-
also have a fraction.
Well, yeah, based on certain things. So obviously, we raised some questions about the yield here, but you gave some.
Good ideas, yeah.
Good ideas. Let me, because I didn't prepare anything in writing, and I apologize and everything, but a lot of stuff coming in, as you know, under staff. But let me see if I could put something in, like, concrete writing recommendations to the applicant. In other words, make this change or do, per what we discussed before we make any further decisions. I could do it by the next meeting. I don't have an issue with that. Just so I can make sure I give them the right direction.
And Kieran, and you should reach out to Jackie and.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them.
I'd reach out to Jackie. I was going to suggest
Yes.
that.
I mean, she was in your shoes when this started.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
now she's wearing the other hat.
I feel
so-
like the CPF portion needs to be settled before we talk about a subdivision of land.
Well, at
Subdivision
least,
of what land?
at least to know that the town has interest and they're okay with
They did
layout.
have interest, but it, 2019,
Jackie wasn't there at the time, and, who knows?
there was a lot of time has
I mean,
passed.
Kieran, also, with the affordable housing, look what they did up the Turnpike with the duplexes. You could
Yeah.
do something like that.
No, we did talk about that with,
Yeah.
We have the wiggle room to do the affordable units as
that was the
multifamily.
original
That's-
talk was, accessory. Oh, all right,
It could be
okay.
attached housing. It's
Attached
right up the
housing, that's
road.
right, because we can go zero lot
Yeah.
line,
Yeah, well, it's a cluster plan, so we can
Absolutely.
modify that.
Yeah.
You've got all kinds of tools.
Okay.
That's a good idea. I forgot
But we
about
like the stuff on the road, Jim.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Well-
throw cold water in your face.
And the DEC stuff too, that's
As
good.
long
that
as
they-
you do this, the DEC is gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Coordinated, secret, whatever. The DEC has reviewed this map extensively over a 3-year period, and Kevin Jennings is waiting for this to come back. Waiting for it to come back with easements, a fence, performance bond, maintenance bond. Those things have to happen. What happens with affordable housing? I probably could care less. How this property was resolved and Jane Frith got out of her family's problems, probably would be okay either way you stack it up. We did it at Camp Jerome. We have other projects where there's town is a big partner in the subdivision process. I think it's fine.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely thank you for all these ideas, and we just want to keep
Let's
moving.
follow up. No, we will.
And
I
She's
will-
not well.
I mean, we're
Yes. I
so in
appreciate
favor
this,
of
yes.
this. We're just trying to make it
Yes.
work.
And, we were delayed by the DEC, but, now it's thoroughly looked at and should
And
be
subdividing it isn't going to affect any of their direction.
preserved.
No.
No.
So
The subdivision process is similar. As long as we do this, we're okay.
Yeah.
It's
we can
easy.
start drafting those.
We drew it up. We have the math done correctly. The endangered species work is done correctly. We're at the point where we need the town to move a map along. How it looks exactly, I don't know if I care all that much. 3 affordable housing lots, it's fine by me. I would
I have
think
to
the
ask
town
again,
would want to
though.
have 4.
So
Well,
I'm
if
gonna
we get
ask
rid of one of
Christine.
these, we could,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, if we got rid of one of these, we could have the 4.
Well, yeah, let me,
But I
I'm
haven't
gonna
discussed
look at
this with
everything.
her, but I'm just thinking if we got rid of one
Wanted
of
to hear
these,
from the
we could
board
have
about,
another
some of these
affordable.
things, and I will look at
Okay.
that.
But when we talk about density incentives, then we talk about affordability. Who and how sets the criteria for affordability on an ownership?
The code and then whatever policy the planning board would
Well,
recommend through planning.
so our housing and community
It
development
would probably
director.
get a
We've
referral
talked.
from her.
So, The numbers are set. It's based on the
Set.
median
It's
Suffolk
AMI?
County, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
But you could choose which AMI.
so what'll happen is, depending on what the need is, they could do 3 different ones: middle, median, and moderate. Whatever, they have different categories of affordability, and
Yeah.
then depending on what the income levels of that affordability would set what the prices would be.
Okay.
But they're going to be
You
set
you
by
would
the
get it on a
town,
referral, you
Okay.
get a recommendation.
and it's going to come to you.
And
But, yeah.
and it'll
But it's
be
in the code.
permanent.
It's perpetual, and even there's limitations on how much
Even
you
when
could
they sell
resell
it,
them
yeah.
for.
Yeah, there's a limit.
What's not gonna happen, and I've had people come to me and say, I'm gonna do an affordable housing development, we're gonna sell the houses for $600,000. That sounds affordable when you're in Watermill and everything, but, you know, to the average person, it's not. So these will be set, and they're gonna be
Yeah, it's
at a
just-
proper price point.
We've talked to the housing authority, we've talked to Karen Back, and they're gonna let, the housing, them have the deeds.
I believe we were told what to do with affordable housing lots when we first met.
I'm sure.
Yes.
I know,
Yeah,
Jim.
okay.
Listen, I could appreciate that.
I have to ask because if not, it would bother me all night and I would pace my hall. I need an answer here.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be.
You took my maps.
I know I did.
Okay, all right.
Get them back,
Okay, well,
Jim.
thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
thanks,
you.
everyone. I appreciate that. I think I have to continue.
Yeah, Hampton 6.
Anthony, is Hampton 6 ready to go?
Yeah, so this one, I have a color map here. This is the Hampton Bays Market, right next to the,
Yeah. We had the public hearing.
we had the
Yes.
public hearing. This,
I did a site visit yesterday.
site visit.
The applicant's representative
I do
Aurelia
site
is
visit
here.
every day.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Oh, that's okay.
Hello.
No,
Makers.
that's okay, you didn't know.
Identify
for
yourself for
seeing-
the public record.
Aurelia Tavares, the representative for Hampton 6. We're the community supermarket, the renovation
Yes.
into the old pharmacy.
like,
They get-
yeah.
So, when we spoke about this, I remember the board specifically saying, wanted the access, right? Wanted the redevelopment of the town parking lot. You also recommended that one of those access points to good ground be closed off. But Dennis said it's probably gonna be the town's property. And then the realignment of the parking on their property to be, head in instead of diagonal. So I had actually forwarded this to the applicant, so they could go ahead and work on making the changes. I just wanted to let the board know that this is I think, the direction we're gonna go in, and it seemed like that's what the planning board wanted to do. In addition to that, was there anything else the planning board, and you had mentioned
The
something?
question is whether we're going to allow access out to Montauk Highway. Kate probably knows, 7-Eleven, Chase Bank with the quantifier, all have eliminated their access out to Montauk Highway.
And this property has 2, if I remember correctly,
Yeah,
right?
it says 2. And I can tell you, it's a nightmare to make a left turn out of here onto Montauk Highway. Basically, eastbound traffic has to come to a full stop when the car goes into the intersection. And then you have to wait for a westbound opening, and it's just, no. Question is whether you want any traffic out there, and I think we're gonna need, maybe traffic engineer or someone to make an evaluation. Tom, I know. You know the
Yeah.
site.
Yep. Yeah.
I would defer to Tom's expertise on this as well, but
I
it
mean,
probably
I-
warrants a hard look.
I mean, I exited the parking lot yesterday going east because I was going back home.
Yeah.
And I still had to wait until, I guess, the light further west stopped the cars. So,
I mean, yeah, I would just
Is it two-way
leave
in and out on
off
both
of good
access
ground.
points? I
Yeah.
don't remember.
What do you see, Kate? You know the site.
I mean, if I were going there, which I have many times, I would go back out on good ground.
Good
I
ground,
wouldn't
right.
make a right, because, yeah, you have Scottos over here and everything,
Yeah.
and then
Even if you're
it's not a
making the
good
right,
sight
the
line because
eastbound-
there's parallel parking.
Even if you're making the eastbound turn, you're at the mercy of someone who's going to try to make a left, westbound turn. And even with the signage and don't do it, people do it.
Right.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, I know. You certainly do.
It warrants a hard look, I think.
I think that's good. Should I set something up with,
Is this
Who
what's
could take
being
a look at
proposed by the
well,
town?
I'm gonna,
This is the municipal?
that's gonna be the municipal, that would be the work of
Is
the
it the
town.
same number
unlisted
of
action?
spots or more spots?
I think it's more spots, actually.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is this
It's
on
always
this,
full.
Anthony, or where are we with secret on this?
This was, I think we did a neg deck.
Neg deck,
Yeah.
okay.
Um,
So we're past secret.
Yeah, past secret, but I could also see, because remember, this got referred to the DPW, so I should see what the DPW or
Right.
is it DPW or the?
No, it's the state.
The state, so whoever so let me see what they also came back with.
But the Hampton Bays plan on books now?
It's trying to get rid of these access points
Right.
onto Montauk.
So is.
So we gotta look at that.
I would also say that maybe just make those in, that you just come in
In.
those way.
Yeah,
and
and
out
there's no
the other
problem.
way.
Think of the 7-Eleven site or the Chase site where you have traffic coming in, but no one's going back out. Now, the Chase site, they have they have that little appendage on the east side, but that's gonna be closed off the first chance we get when they come in for a site plan. We should have done it when they did their remote ATM, a few years
But
back.
controlled, right, over here from, yeah, Ponquag, we're a controlled intersection there, right?
Yeah. Pompog should be right turn only also. But
So
that's-
this would be
that's,
one turn, so you were suggesting coming in only
In
off of
only.
Montauk Highway?
On Montauk Highway.
You know, because they'll come in, it'll send them right back out the back, which is
Right,
not, there's
good
not
ground.
really any.
Yeah, I
by
mean,
the
it's an
drive-through.
interesting, well, yeah, you can turn left here to go back out to
Yeah,
the
you can make
light,
the left.
then, you know, but right turn only here is
What
an
brings
important
the way it is
thing,
now.
because you don't have any sight line, because there's cars parked here.
You mean on
parallel.
Pompog?
Yeah, if you're coming back out, say you went to the post
That's
office.
a tough
coming back
left,
out, You wouldn't
that-
want to make a left
that's a
there.
tough left on Pompog, yeah.
I'd say right turn only here.
Yeah, right turn only. And if you do need to go, you easily get across and go through the town parking lot. You have a number of opportunities to get back out to Montauk Highway.
That's true.
So,
And
know.
so you're
Discuss that with
saying
Maximo's.
the entrance exit by Scotto's really would get closed off?
It would be in, right?
In-
We would just
in
do
only.
In only on
In
the
only.
access points.
it might make sense
But
to keep
there's
both.
one on the other side.
Yeah,
Have that in
there's-
only too.
Well, there's one closer to the Chase
Yeah.
Bank.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you ever consider closing that off?
Well, I think we're gonna have to hear back from the state.
Yeah, let me see
About
what
that.
the state has to say about
Yeah.
our,
And then you gotta see if that affects
Well,
like
the-
Scotto's too. I
yeah,
mean,
of course.
Because you're closing off all their entrance.
Who are you sending this to? You say the state.
It's
the
a
park?
state
Is
road,
this-
right? Is
the
that a state
county.
road?
Free access.
County.
It's a county over there?
Is that county or
Montauk
is it
Highway is a
state?
counny road.
You sure?
County Road 80.
Okay, so
Oh,
then
okay.
it went to the
County
DPW.
Road 80.
DPW,
The
okay.
system tells me where I have to send it.
Okay. So you're gonna get their input on it, and this, I mean, I think I understand what they've done down here. 24 feet, I mean, this, I guess, so this is two-way all up
Yeah.
along here.
It's two-way the whole way there.
Yep.
It was, I see that the design was approved by our town engineer. I don't know who in Parks and Recreation designs parking lots, but as long as it was approved by our town engineer, I guess we're fine.
Yeah, Tom went through this. They had 3 different proposals.
This was
This is
done
the one.
through
Okay.
Tom's office with the
Yeah.
assistance
Okay.
of our other coworker down there, Nick, and obviously
Okay.
through our own plans too that we have on
Okay.
record.
Springville.
The,
Oh.
so what I'm
Nick-
gonna.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, it's
Yeah.
probably Nick then, okay.
Oh, yeah, Nick probably did them.
Nick's an engineer also.
So I think Aurelia's gonna bring this back to her
She would
client,
just
say
make
this is
right
what the
turn
board would like to
here,
do.
make a right turn
Um,
Springville.
And we're
They're gonna
gonna
move
get
forward
some
with
feedback
the-
from the county.
We're gonna get feedback from the county, and I'll probably come back next time,
I
actually. just to
sense they're
advise.
probably gonna want the western access
No,
closed.
this way.
They may,
No.
they may very well.
Easter.
See,
Um,
if they close both accesses.
No, they're not gonna close both.
Oh, okay.
They would close
Yeah,
the one
I-
closest to Chase.
You mean?
No, I would actually recommend the opposite.
Keep that open.
Yeah.
But-
Um,
Scotto's is using, Scotto's access is,
They use the one closest to
He's
them because
using
there's
the
parking right
eastern
on the
one.
side for that, that's their parking.
But also, I would say that it's not just the supermarket there. There's other
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
vendors. And then
Yeah.
if we
Creeks
close off
and-
both, it doesn't make sense because whoever's going to the supermarket would use this one. And then
Yeah.
this one would be Scotto's, would be the dry cleaner, would be everybody
Yeah.
coming, so they
And-
would
and
be
the bake-
more
the
inclined
bakery.
to do that and not keep blocking us over here. So I would leave that, I would suggest that both of them stay open, so the supermarket has its own direct traffic, and then whoever's going, there's like
Yeah.
6 other little shops right there, just on the
Yeah,
right,
I-
including Scotto's.
I agree. I mean, we have to see what the county
And the
says.
dance studio is
Yeah.
also
The
there.
And a
thing is, on
massage
that
place
side,
now.
the only reason that I would recommend closing the one by Scotto's, so people could still enter in safely there, but because there's all these like higher buildings, even if you have a right turn only outside of this entrance exit by Scotto's, you're gonna have people trying to turn left.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's a crosswalk there, it's always
Yeah.
like shadowed from the buildings, because that's them facing south, and
Yeah.
you don't have a good sight line. I
Yeah.
would be interested to see what the accident data is there.
Yeah.
Because
there's
like,
street parking, Kate, if
I'm
you
sorry,
realize.
it's
where-
remember the
safer
street
if you
parking.
keep
Yeah.
the entrance all the way on the west side. It's safer there. You have a better sight line.
Where are you talking about access onto Montauk Highway? I thought
Over
Scotto's was
here.
kind of the middle of the block.
No, it's on the end.
It's on
It's
the
on the
end.
corner.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so this picture isn't as helpful for this conversation as
It's
that
like
one
right- it's
is.
right here.
Yeah.
So where Anthony, can you put the cursor over
This
the
is Scotto's.
western entrance?
Right here.
Okay.
So that's the western
You can't
entrance.
close
Right.
that.
And if you
No.
zoom out a little bit more,
No, you can't
You
close
can't
that
do
off.
that.
so, yeah, there's two entrance exit there. So that would just, would slow people down a little bit more. You could still get in there, and if you needed to go back out on Montauk Highway, you could, or you could easily go out the back way onto Good Ground Road. But you could actually, Scotto's might like it if the parking was reconfigured to actually add more spaces along Montauk Highway instead of,
So
You know
you're
what I mean?
suggesting closing that?
Anthony, you would talk to them? Because
And doesn't
this would-
Scotto's
this
have
would
some
impact them.
outside seating?
Yeah.
See, but
along-
if
on
you-
that side, so it's gonna
Yeah.
be safer
Well, I'm
for
also, I want to see
them
what
too.
the
Yeah.
But
DPW
you see,
says.
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
six, see if you could make it a little smaller so that it can zoom out. If you see all that left side of the supermarket, of the building, is all vendors.
Yeah.
That's all vendors, and then on the other side is the dry cleaners. By closing that out, what we're gonna do is create a huge traffic jam, because this is gonna stop all those people making that right in. All that's gonna slow down just to enter to there, when someone could enter the other way and alleviate just one entrance of access, because the supermarket has a heavy, people come to the supermarket mostly, but then all these vendors everybody coming to the vendors would go to this one. No one would use this one if they're not coming to the supermarket. So to alleviate maybe a good 30% of people who are not using, who will never go into the supermarket at all for any purpose, that day or that moment. So I think keeping them both open
Right, but
keeps
you
this
also
open
have,
with
like, you also now have, so if you're going to the supermarket, I think you're right, and I've seen that there, you make a right-hand turn in from Montauk Highway from the western entrance. Great, you park and you enter the supermarket. So even if that whole lot was taken up with supermarket traffic, if I want to go to the bike shop or Creeks or the cleaners or Scotto's, I could park now in this municipal lot because I can get in and out, and I can also park on these other, on these other side spaces that are being created.
The only space that would create would be two more extra spaces possibly, and one on the, three extra spaces. I'm not sure that but I have a suggestion.
Yeah, I just think it's worth looking at.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I
you know
was
what I
gonna
mean?
say.
Like,
Yeah.
I think when you have like a thought, right, it's worth saying like, oh, okay, let's examine that with BPW, with whoever designs the parking lot, and
Right.
like, look at the traffic data. And if it comes down to like, oh, the idea wasn't a good one, fine, I concede. But I think it's an idea worth looking at, just based on my experience being in and out of that area.
Okay, so you'll ask the town engineer
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna speak
county
to the town, I'm gonna see what the county
look
said.
at that again.
In the meantime, I'm having them moving forward with that third plan, because I think that's the best plan, that's the one
Yeah.
that the town, that works.
Right.
Obviously, the board knows they had gotten a stop work order a while back.
Right.
They wanted permission to just move forward with the interior renovations to the site. As long as the applicant's agreeable that they have no vested interests and rights associated with it,
Yeah.
without full site plan approval, I don't have any
It's a
issues with
standard
that.
letter you have to submit.
I submitted in.
Oh, yeah, she did submit it, so would you,
I mean, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
So, Anthony, just one more comment on this. So if, say I'm coming into the post office lot and I park my car and I want to go down to Scotto's, it would be helpful to, if, I don't know what the property ownership issues are, but to have some sort of like green space or walkway to get down, like where you don't have to walk through. And that's part of the reason why I'm suggesting closing off that eastern entrance, is because there is no way to really walk down safely without walking, and there's a lot of going on in there.
We did talk about that, and we may be
Yeah.
putting in like a little walkway or something
Yeah.
to make the connection,
Something
to make the
cute.
site better.
Mhm.
The other thing, I told Anthony is at the, where the town lot intersects this lot, would have a sign saying no access to Montauk Highway.
Yes.
Because
Which
people
one-
will use
where
their,
where
oh
is
my
that, where are
God.
we speaking?
Where the town lot intersects your lot, just have a sign that says no access to Montauk Highway, so people know that.
We did it on the Flying Point ones, actually.
Yeah.
Certain
Right.
things, we said, please, no access to Montauk from this property.
Anthony, because I do think blocking that access on Montauk Highway there, I think, would need an awful lot of evaluation. I tend to not agree with that idea, but that's why we would ask other people for their input. Looking at the town design plan, and I was just thrown off that it says Parks and Recreation as opposed to Town Engineering. Because that is the two town engineers here that have, our names are on it. But it looks like where it comes out on good ground, they've necked it down a little bit. There's a little bit of a blacktop area or something. If it's 24 feet wide in the two travel lanes, it looks like they're narrowing it down.
Well, it might just be new asphalt going in.
Maybe that's just, but
Yeah, I'll
that
try
would
to-
make this driveway in and out very narrow.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
because
gotta
it is
widen that.
green space right now.
Yeah.
George is right, they're just adding asphalt to make it the 24 wide.
Yeah.
I'll confirm and we'll make sure it's at the.
Because that will, the truck loading area is just to the west of that, so there will be
100%, yeah.
a lot of
That's a good point.
trucks going in and out of there too, so I would just question that.
No, I will. I'll
stub
sit
of
down with them and go over
asphalt
it.
or whatever's down there.
But this looks pretty good. That looks like we got something out of that.
Yeah, you did eliminate the driveway we talked about, there's no two driveways side by side now.
I've seen firsthand, like,
Yeah. So just the resolution authorizing the proceeding.
Yeah.
with Bill.
Very good. Do we have a motion for that?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria, and second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, 6 yes. You're good to go.
Have a great one.
Thanks for your
Can I have a
patience.
copy of
Aye,
this-
Amelia.
this one?
Oh, yes.
Physical? Yeah?
Yes, you can take that.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it, hopefully it will be helpful.
Yes, and thanks, Aurelia. Charles, I think someone might be on Zoom for
Canal Battery, is that what?
Canal Battery. It was
Okay.
just a
Item 4,
discussion.
Canal Battery.
Yeah, actually, we had discussed this with Jackie, and we were going to discuss it with the board. As the board knows, we're in the middle of a public hearing, and we adjourned it to what date?
June 8th?
June 8th. So I think there was just a question at the end of it, what direction kind of we were giving the applicant to come back with, and we had discussed that we wanted them to go talk to the Hampton Bays Water District and the Hampton Bays Fire District, so I kind of just wanted to formalize that with you all and make sure that that's clear, so that I can get in touch with their attorney and say, we expect you to go get in touch with them.
There he is,
and
right up there.
get- Oh, okay.
Do we need an action on that?
No, not really. I just wanted to clarify it, and we felt the best way to do that was to put it on the agenda and do it publicly so that everybody saw
Oh,
that
good.
that's
Okay.
kind of what we were looking
And-
for between now and the public hearing, the next adjourned date.
And the applicant's here, so.
Super, then
Hi,
I'll have to
welcome.
call.
We can hear you.
Yes, Andrew Filipazzi, Harris Woman Archer, attorney for the applicant. I have a handful of other people on the Zoom as well, if you want to let them in. Gus Aditi and John O'Hara from ownership, and Paul Rogers, our fire consultant. I believe Nick from Paul's office is also on, as well as either Kevin Maher or Elizabeth Weatherby from HARF. So we're all here, want to hear the board's questions, what else they want us to provide between now and June 8th, when we come back for the continuation of the public hearing.
Andrew, did you hear what we just said 2 seconds ago? I don't know if you were still on Zoom or getting on Zoom at that point.
If you can just repeat it, that
Yeah,
would...
so the consensus, I believe, of the board, unless there was anything additional, was that we wanted you to get in touch with the Hampton Bays Fire District and the Hampton Bays Water District between the time we closed and obviously the time we go to the adjourned date in June 8th, to speak to them about, capacity and whether or not the training was there, all the questions that came up during that hearing. And we kind of just felt like that you didn't get an actual direction perhaps, or it wasn't as clear as it should have been. And we wanted you to have that direction to do that before the next hearing, and thought it was the best way to do that was by bringing it on the agenda today for that purpose.
Okay.
And the chief fire marshal.
And the fire marshal, yes. I think we've already begun that
Great.
outreach. And if not, we'll be doing it very shortly.
Were there any other specific questions? I know there were a handful of things that were brought up. A good number of them, I think, were answered the night of the hearing, but I'm not sure if the board had any other specific questions or specific requests.
I don't think we want to get too far into that because we don't want to have a hearing right now because this is not noticed as a public hearing. This was for purposes only of clarifying the close of the last hearing, what they were kind of expecting for this hearing. There may be other questions that come up during that night, or certainly any of the board members can reach out to you directly by email if they have any questions. We are in the process. I just don't think it would be fair to get too far down in terms of a back and forth with you without other people being here to weigh in.
Yeah, I completely understand that. That's fine. Just wanted to make sure that we're trying to cover all the topics that are still an issue.
So one of the things then would be helpful, we discussed this, on your noise analysis, which shows, compliance with the town's, regulations as it relates to decibels. For the public in particular, as it relates to the, residential properties to the north and south, if there's any way that you could visualize that. In other words, show what the decibel levels would be at a certain point and what that would be equivalent to. You put it on the record at the property line that it would be equivalent to this noise. Is there something that you could visualize for the public to say, hey, at this, when you get to the residential neighborhoods to the north, you won't hear anything, something that we could show? That might be helpful.
I'm seeing Elizabeth nod her head from AKRF. I think she would be the best one. I guess that's a yes, that we can provide some sort of, perfect.
That'd be awesome.
We'll provide some sort of, chart or a diagram showing that.
Thank you.
That's great.
That's it. We don't need any motions, so just,
Yeah, that's all we needed.
that's all we want.
There's really no
Okay,
action.
and if I could just make one request, and I'll send it to Anthony in email as well. If we can get a copy of anything that was submitted to the board by the public at the hearing, just so that we have an opportunity to review that in case they had any questions in those documents that weren't answered.
Okay, just send me an email. You're the applicant, so I could get the information to you.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anthony, are you ready to go to Camp Jerome?
Camp Jerome, and I know let me check.
Jimmy Walker.
Yeah, Jim's there.
Oh, Jim's on that too.
Camp Jerome. I think that's all I have then.
Craig wants cookies.
He's been a good boy.
Where did those come from?
He's been a good boy. You can have a good.
Kristen,
She came through.
There he is.
she's killing me.
Oh, we didn't pass that,
That's not, pass it that way.
You
I just
laughed,
had a
but it was
protein
20
bar.
years ago that Claire and I both worked with Jimmy Walker, so.
I remember when Claire got married.
There you go. So the board remembers this project on Quanto Creek.
It was a fun reception.
Good to see you back, Jim.
You remember that?
Okay, he does. Everybody remember Camp Jerome here?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so the 3 lots that were proposed, the 3 new residential lots, are now proposed as 1 lot. That's going to CPF. They are in contract. The contract has already been basically prepared.
Lot 1.
Lot 1. Lot 2 just is maintaining all of the other existing improvements. There had been a ZBA decision with that one that allowed that new lot to have all the single-family residences on there. There were conditions that were imposed and are included in our resolution. I had done my 239 referral to the Conservation Board, and I was a little late in that. It really only affects Lot 2. Lot 2 is already developed, so ultimately what's coming out of the 239 is just really the establishment of the buffers around here. So I will, I'll come back with that one, because that could be a separate action as a wetlands permit.
And Lot 1 for CPF purposes.
And Lot 1 for
Very-
CPF.
It's a very
And-
buildable lot.
Yeah, very buildable lot.
Full compliance and
So I had a resolution, actually, just a draft resolution of approval.
Should we
Can I
make
give
a
a little
quick?
background?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
go
I've
ahead.
got some just concerns.
Identify
about the
yourself.
resolution. John Denick, the applicant, and Jim Walker from InterScience. This was originally before the zoning board of appeals, and it was a 4-lot subdivision.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, the idea was to remove that little barn, which I'm being told the community loves, because it was going to impact on one of the lot lines. But interestingly enough, the contract with the town, and this goes to one of your resolutions, the contract with the town, at paragraph R2,
says the seller shall not be required to make any physical improvements to Lot 1, and then this is all Lot 1 now, which is what's doing. Or remove anything currently on Lot 1, regardless of any notation on any subdivision map.
Okay.
Because what happened was when this went away, when this went away and went to that, because the town was gonna purchase that, there's no need to remove that. Because it's not gonna straddle a lot line. So even the contract with the town.
I'm okay with that.
states
The only reason why is because the town's gonna purchase this. If the town wants it off, then they'll.
Well, there's no lot line, even if they weren't.
But maybe the town wants it for some
Maybe
reason.
they-
Maybe
yeah,
it's
maybe they wanna keep it
totally
there.
usable.
You're allowed to keep it there.
Yeah, well, your condition says remove it.
No, well, then we'll
So
fix that.
we'll
We're gonna take
yeah,
care of
that's-
that right away, Justin.
No, I just thought that, but I want.
Just, you know, before you go, actually,
I'm
John,
sorry,
no,
I'm sorry.
let me go through the resolution.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Let's look at the conditions.
Let's just go to the B resolved, okay? The first one, to John's point, talks about the ZBA decision. I spoke to Katie about this,
Right.
okay? The ZBA, first of all, the lot, which now is, on this old map says Lot 4, is now Lot 2, okay? They refer to the subdivision map and refer in their approval as Lot 4 on this map,
Oh.
as opposed to the one that we're approving, which is Lot 2. All that Katie said what she would do is put it on for agenda for Scrivener's amendment. It doesn't change the variance or anything, it's just that the map is not referenced correctly.
Well,
that's
I
all
just
she
want
said.
referral to the, I don't want to make it conditioned on any zoning board reapproval or anything, if you refer.
Correction of Scrivener's error.
Excuse me? All right,
Subject
the
to
correction of
correction of
Scrivener.
zoning board
Okay.
correction of
Correction,
Scrivener's
yeah.
error.
Correction.
And the other thing, I just want to as long as we're talking about this, typically you would have a condition that says no further subdivision. I want to make sure it says no further subdivision without planning board approval, because the whole rationale for creating this lot of this size, and we still have to come back to you, was there are 3 residences on it. So if somebody wanted to take 2 of them off, I don't think they should be precluded if they could meet wetland setbacks and stuff like that, because it's only 1 acre zone from going in and asking this board to further subdivide. So I just want to make sure that the covenant would say no
Without
further
planning board
subdivision without
approval?
planning board
Let's
approval.
do the.
Let me go
condition
in
order, and then when
And
they
those-
surface.
So
John,
final
bring
approval of
attention.
29239B referral from the conservate by resolution of the planning board, which we will do.
Scrivener's error.
And the number 1 is going to be the
Yeah.
Scrivener's correction, Scrivener's error. 3, notification from the Community President Fund Program Manager.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, final approval of the referral? Didn't they weigh in? They didn't weigh in?
I did my 239 referral, hasn't made it to their agenda yet, John. So I'm doing this approval, approving the subdivision, and then we will do the
Because we're
239.
giving you a big buffer there. What else would they want?
They still have to take the
They still
action.
have to do it. It was either that I take it all completely off the agenda and wait a month.
Okay.
I think.
I
let's
appreciate
do
it, I'm
this.
sorry.
That's okay. Number 3 is notification from the Community Preservation Fund Program Manager about contract and purchase for Lot 1, which I do have, and obviously you just presented that.
But that's a condition of the approval? Why would that be a condition of the subdivision?
I just want, because if you're not in contract with the town CPF on that, then don't we want to know that for this lot?
Well, I would just create another lot there. I'm in contract, but I don't want to make that that's a strange condition for a subdivision.
This is one that I took directly word for word from one that Dave Wilcox did 15 years ago.
Maybe somebody didn't fight.
But what is your objection to it?
Because I don't want it a condition of subdivision approval. I mean, what do you want, there's a copy, we're in contract, notification from the, I don't want to have to wait to get the map signed for notification from the CPF fund manager?
The alternative is not having the map
What?
signed.
Excuse me?
So the alternative is not having the
hold on a
map
second.
signed at
No,
all.
the alternative is to not have this as a condition, because why am I, that's a ridiculous condition.
Is there,
I'm in contract. Why do I have to
On the
wait
on
for
the
the
specific-
notification?
Or maybe the
from-
wording isn't great, John, but then.
I think what you're trying to say
I
is
want-
that if it's not going to be held in preservation as we are anticipating, then in that event, it's going to come back and be another developable lot. That's a whole nother story, is what
Yeah, but
basically
here's
he's
the
trying to
problem. I
say.
don't want to sit there calling up some bureaucrat saying, did you get that letter out? 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 it's ridiculous. Oh, I'll get to it. I'm sorry, it's down here. We've got a contract.
John, I won't
with
make a
sale.
federal case out of it, but I will call Jackie Fenlon myself, the bureaucrat you're referring to, and I will get something.
I don't really care. This is what happens. You be on my side of the V sometimes and call people.
If anybody here,
You
John,
know?
is on that side, it's
Okay,
me, come on.
Are we eliminating that then, Anthony?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
It says, per the ZBA decision, the map shall note the removal of a barn, frame shed, and existing
Wait a
basketball
minute,
court
hold
for
on one
lot
second,
two.
hold on one second. But are we then losing the ability, if this is not in preservation, to revisit this? Because I think that's what we want to maintain. If we put something in there that says, we'll take out the condition that you have to have a signed contract, but if this is going to
Let's
be.
talk about that then.
Yeah.
Okay, let's really talk about that. What am I left with that's not in preservation? I'm left with one big fat lot. If anything, it benefits the town. I mean, you know, let's for some reason, let's see this contract goes away, and that we don't sell it to the town. Now, instead of having 3 lots, now I have 1. So I'm not getting, if anyone's getting hurt by
No,
it-
John, but, you know, what happened
maybe
was,
I'm not
we waived all the
understanding.
referral requirements, we didn't do it, I didn't do any referrals for this except for 239, we didn't have the hearing, that's all. You know, it was based on this being, you know,
Come on,
preserved.
let's have a rule of reason here. I'm in a binding contract with the town of Southampton.
This was
Why
what it was
am-
signed.
What?
This was signed.
Yeah, it was signed.
That's what I said.
Why are we clouding this all up with this stuff?
I'm gonna
And your
defer to you,
client's going to
Christine, on
sign
this
it.
one.
Excuse me?
Your client's going to
It's
sign it. I
not-
don't have one that's going to be,
Oh,
what I'm
okay.
looking at is just the supervisor signed it. If you present a signed contract, I'm good.
Yeah, why are you getting so upset about this? Because basically
I'm getting
you
upset about it
have-
because you've never been in
you
my
have-
position waiting
You have
for
proof of number 3.
bureaucrats
You've
to
already
do things
checked
that
off the
takes
list.
5 seconds and it takes
Actually,
3 months to get them out.
I have,
Excuse
but
me?
I have.
You have. No, I was
No,
talking to.
but so I'm just saying, just give me a signed contract by both parties, and that's
I will
fine.
represent to you as an officer of the court, and I'll give, in effect, give you an oral certification of the civil practice law and rules, that is an accurate copy of a contract that's also been signed by the.
You have a fully executed
Yes,
contract,
yes, we're in contract.
and you'll give us a copy.
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes.
So we've got that on the record.
Perfect. The ZBA decision, I just incorporated their condition with the removal of the structures on this lot here.
By the way, they didn't ask for a removal of the basketball court, they wanted the hoop removed, just the hoop removed, because the neighbor, was this just the hoop?
The hoop?
Why am I being a pain in the ass about this?
No, that's-
Okay, I'll
that's
tell you
your-
why. I'll tell you what, because I have a contract that I want to close with the town of Southampton, and I have a contract sitting on my desk to sell this.
No, and
to somebody
and that's why I
else.
came
So
here
just
today,
don't-
John.
I
I'm
just
trying to
don't-
get you
no,
to that
I'm
point.
sorry, but I'm just explaining myself.
Okay, so
But that's the wording that was in their decision.
No, it says the hoop.
And I was looking right here.
Yeah,
Existing basketball
yeah, but when
court.
you look at the whole thing,
Okay.
it says the hoop.
Whatever the condition of the ZBA decision, we'll just incorporate the ZBA
Jimmy?
decision.
Are you noting this? The hoop.
It's hoop.
It's the hoop.
Yes, it's the hoop.
Number 5 is just a standard notation on the map. A notation, now, but what about this notation that lot 1 is to be preserved through community preservation? Is that not necessary then? I
No,
spoke
it
to-
is, it's fine, because it's going to be done.
It's not a condition, though.
It's already
It's not a
signed
condition.
contract.
I guess,
It's
yeah,
Okay, so-
Actually, that should probably be one of the findings.
Yeah, we could do that, and that's in there. Number 7, per the contract, the town said they don't have to remove any of the
They don't.
structures.
Okay.
They don't care. I mean,
get rid of
it's,
it.
That's
I
what the
I
con-
think,
I haven't had time
that-
to review the contract, so I have
I'm
no clue.
representing to you that it
Okay.
says, right here, I'll read it to you, just let me read it to you. It says, I read it into the record before, what it says at SR 2, supplemental rider 2, I remember because I drafted it. And again, the seller, that's, shall not be required to make any physical improvements to lot 1, now, as Anthony explained, this is now lot 1. Or remove anything currently contained on lot 1, regardless of any notation on the subdivision map.
That's interesting. Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
That's pretty
It is what it
straightforward.
is.
And then, okay, just for informational purposes, I have to give up the right to travel over this parcel
Okay.
to get to lot number 1.
So then the access just from.
Gotta come in here.
Yeah. The street numbers for the lots, that's just a typical.
So what are we doing? Are we eliminating? Yeah. we're
Yeah,
eliminating.
number
Okay.
7.
Street numbers? Good.
Street numbers is typical.
Mm.
Number 9, this was just the initial requirement, just the wetland boundary, that's not, right?
So you want the town, you want what the town flagged and not what InterScience flagged?
The one, yeah, the one
Yeah.
that they're basing the.
Okay,
the
that's
seven
fine,
on.
of course.
the DEC, the Conservation Board noticed that there's an area that they did re-veg on this property. That should just be shown. And because they said there was a wetland restoration effort that was attempted, but it didn't hold on the property.
Okay, so this is important, because again, I'm just, you know, we sometimes joke, particularly, not so much on these, but on major subdivision final conditional approvals, we sort of joke that now the real work starts, because you've got 5 million conditions to take care of. All we're doing is indicating this. This doesn't impose some sort of affirmative.
No, because I'm going to do the
obligation.
2/3, I'll do that as a separate, resolution. I just want to make sure I incorporated just a few.
Okay,
you know,
so
conservation boards.
this is just.
Yeah, just map notation.
I just want to show it on there.
Okay, notation. Okay, thank you.
Lot 2, again, the buffer. I'm just going along with what the Conservation Board recommended.
As long as that's yeah, and this is important. I'll show the buffer, there's no need for it to be a conservation easement.
No, it doesn't.
Because you have that town board acceptance of the conservation.
That's a
use.
mistake.
Okay. And also, just for purposes, a conservation easement has 247 language in it, makes it very difficult.
I'm recommending covenant buffers, not. So lot 2, then they'll show the buffer and then also the wetlands area. It's typical now that the entire wetlands area is shown as a wetlands preservation area. That's typical of the wetlands board.
In a covenant, but not an easement.
In a covenant, not an easement. I don't, it doesn't need to be an easement. And then the covenants and restrictions, again, the standard ones. No further subdivision of any lots without planning board approval.
Yeah, that's fine, of course.
Same thing with the lot line changes. Access to lot 2 shall be from Alden Lane. Does that address?
The access is there.
Is there. I didn't, and it looks like their legal agreement eliminates this thing.
Oh, shall, that's fine, so,
Yeah.
yeah, because we're gonna get rid of, the town doesn't want us going through what will be some passive recreation. Exactly.
The 3-inch drainage is typical retention of.
Future, that's the key.
Yeah, future.
You don't have to put it in there.
Yeah, same thing.
Oh, that's for what, for further improvements, or further constructions?
Yeah, the same thing with D and E, actually. Lot F is just the buffer that it sends on lot 2. G, and the wetlands preservation area, so this be in a covenant. And then the other standard, the submission of the mortgage consent if applicable, town attorney approval of the legal documents, scratch number 16. And then submission of the Mylars and paper prints.
My copy.
All right, and please don't yell at me for being unappreciative.
John, how'd you do?
Even though I deserve it.
John, I yell at everybody, John.
How did we do? Are we there, or?
Yeah, no,
more
thanks for,
tweaking?
excuse me?
No more tweaking?
No, I'm happy.
Okay.
My whole goal was to be able to get this thing signed as quickly as possible.
I specifically advised the planning board that I waited on the 239
Right.
because you're trying to close with the town, so.
And I appreciate
Trying
it.
to help you here.
All right,
I'll
we're ready to
just- so all
roll.
I have to do is get Marty in the headline.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Thanks.
Motion by George.
Say.
Second by Craig, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, we have 6 yes.
Thank you.
John, thank you again, as always.
Thank you, and I'm
Thank you,
sorry,
George.
and I'm sorry I had the big
Great
cup of
seeing
coffee
you.
before.
No.
John,
It's
just
all
get
good.
me that other stuff.
It's easier than
Get
the
me the
Tiger
other
Song.
stuff. on
That's true.
the-
I don't have anything else, I'll see you tonight.
Anthony?
It's easier than the Tiger Salamander.
917
Everything's
West
easier than
Main and
Tiger
Sharrows
Salamander.
are both
It
off.
tastes like chicken.
Yeah, because I don't think you said that at the beginning.
Oh, I thought I did. I'm
What's
sorry.
up? What's up?
Does
Charros and 917.
Does everybody remember what Tom Thorson, the
Yes.
former plant, used to have in his office on the back of, on the top of a file cabinet? He had a jar of tiger salamanders pickled, because down south.
They sell 'em as
They
bait.
chop them up as bait. Anyway, I said, Tom, maybe you should put that down.
Yeah, right. You're the character. John, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Jeff, are you going to take us to Wilderness Trail, item 6?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Onward and forward.
Future reference.
Trying to get those cookies down.
No, don't do that. I'm not going to have a group. Unfortunately, this is a
Thanks, Nancy.
wall at which they will not pass.
You don't want to beat that.
No.
I'm sure I had a phone call.
Is there enough?
So we had a public hearing
We did.
Carl, welcome. Just identify yourself.
Good morning, or good
Good
afternoon,
afternoon.
sorry, that kind of day. Carl Benacasa,
Carl, you gonna be nice to us?
860. Yes, I'll be much nicer.
Those game face, huh?
So
here at-
it's a
we're
pretty
here
low
to
bar.
help.
860
That's the
Montauk
gentleman,
Highway,
remember.
Watermill, New York, for the applicant.
So we're here to discuss the pre-application report regarding a proposed three-lot subdivision located at landlocked parcel, Suffolk County Tax Map number 979-1-3. It's located in CR 200 zoning district, in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, as well as CPF priority list. The lot size combined is 13.872 acres, total of 604,260 square feet. The proposed three-lot subdivision includes proposed Lot 1, which contains 200,000 square feet.
The blow up of the map.
And proposed Lot 2, which also contains 200,000 square feet, excluding the flag pole, would equal 198,302 square feet, and proposed Lot 3, which contains 200,000 square feet, excluding the flagpole, would equal 193,292 square feet. The proposed accessway is really the main crux of our conversation today, or discussion today. The applicant is proposing access via a road reverter, which was established under William Bennett, minor subdivision, August 11, 1982. Where'd it go? By way of Wilderness Trail, which has an easement, a private easement by Mr. Joseph Gaza, who essentially gives him right, or for the right to anyone he chooses, as well as himself, for access under Wilderness Trail.
This is off of Seven
It's-
Ponds Town.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's also subject to a deed of dedication to the town.
Right. Irrevocable deed of offer of dedication. We did deem this type 2 action. There's no further environmental review necessary for this. This is a standard plan. We looked at possibilities for cluster. It does, as of right, meet the zoning requirements for CR 200. The applicant will need to seek ZB approval for Lot 3 of the proposed three-lot subdivision for road opening, as the common driver that's proposed is proposed for 25 feet in totality, 15 feet for, I believe, Lot 2 and 10 feet for Lot 3. What I'll do is I'll jump down to our key components here, which I'll run over to the last page, our recommendations.
I'll just remind me, where are they proposing their access again? Is it
Down
from
at the
Southern-
bottom.
Down at the bottom?
Correct.
It's the bottom, yeah.
So.
What's the issue with the top, by the way?
So
We'll get into that.
So yeah, let's get into that
get into that.
conversation. The public hearing, which was held on. Okay, public hearing, which was held on February 23rd, 2023. We had comments from the public regarding the development of this landlocked parcel, which impacts majority of that subdivision, the William Bennett subdivision. The concerns, which I'll list off for the record, are concerns about unprivatizing Wilderness Trail and would like to an alternative access point. Concerns about how road reverter will impact their property. One of the property owners commented that they don't want their property to be touched. Concerns about how long construction will be and the impacts of construction, and such as road and runoff. Concerns about overdevelopment in the town if we approve this subdivision, and also concerns about stormwater runoff and impacts to deer that inhabit the existing woods. So I'll go back to the conversation regarding road access. We discussed at length opportunity for road access. as staff, planning staff is recommending access via Saltweed subdivision, which does have a common driveway right now and offered of dedication to the town when the minor subdivision was established. This would still require, even after conversation with the applicant's representative, ZBA approval for a road opening, or this road frontage specifically. But this access point we believe to be less impactful, considering this road reverter does take away 50 feet, which was one of the concerns of the property owners of the subdivision of William Bennett, that the 50 feet would encroach upon their property, and they were not necessarily aware of that. Now, there's also still a question mark regarding the easement, the overlying easement over Wilderness Trail by Mr. Joe Gaza, which seemingly so gives him right to has access, and who he affords access to utilize Wilderness Trail. I'll give the applicant's representative an opportunity to discuss that, or at least comment on that, and whether or not they prefer to utilize Wilderness Trail as access.
May I just ask, I think you said there's another access point, but
Yes, so I think GIS
I
might
don't know
show it
what it
better,
is.
actually.
It's at the top.
Do the topo
top.
survey that I
The
sent,
top,
the topographic survey I submitted originally, that has both. We put
Okay.
both on.
It's in here.
There it is. So, we had proposed,
And
as
is
you may.
that 7 Pounds Town Road?
No, this right here, yes.
There.
This is 7 Boston Road, yes.
So what we had proposed was use of Wilderness onto the right of, or the future road that last subdivision right there had provided. The 50 feet onto each parcel's property was established and in their chain of title since the early 80s. So I know the current owner bought it a few years back. It was certainly available for review, and they're put on notice of it. We preferred this, as this road is more opened up, and there, again, up to the point of those two neighbors' properties, and then there was that clear access for 50 feet. So what the planning board, or I'm sorry, what the planning department is asking this board to adopt is a recommendation, a preference, that we use the top access. Just scroll up. That access to the north. It is less compliant with road frontage. The one we proposed is 50 feet wide, that's only 20 feet wide. We reviewed the condition of Wilderness Trail with the Highway Department. No review has been done on that northern access.
And what is that now?
That's a, what? That's just a common driveway.
That's a driveway.
Yeah.
It's a common driveway to the lots that have been undeveloped.
Well, to the lot to the north of it, in practical use, but yes,
You can
there
see
are,
one of the houses
there's
up there.
rights.
Okay.
So
There's
all these
rights.
houses are been developed,
Yeah.
yes.
We discussed the implications of Wilderness Trail, expanding Wilderness Trail on-site with the neighbors. We've considered at length the state of the right-of-way, the work that would need to be done to improve the right-of-way, the costs of that work. We've explored the feasibility of access. We've discussed with Mr. Gaza and again with the Highway Department, both of whom can provide access. The Highway Department subject to certain work, which they said was feasible, and they actually gave an estimate. We reviewed the covenant history and the history of the development of the lot. None of that has been done for that top one. I'm not saying it's wrong for us to consider it, but I think this staff report, where the planning board is asked to say they prefer northern access, is asking your preference to be, you to issue a resolution stating your preference on pretty scant information. What I would simply ask is that this recommend we consider northern access as opposed, in conjunction with both. I think there's not enough information to say that there's a preference for that. I think the jump to say there's a preference is based on comments from the neighbors. There have been subsequent discussions with those neighbors, and we don't know what the neighbors to the north would say.
Well, I guess, is that someone's driveway and we're suggesting that we should use it for other people?
No, it's
I'm
it's a road
confused.
that was dedicated to the town.
But in practice, it's someone's driveway. Yes, but there's a common driveway there that they use with an offer of dedication to the town. And it only touches 20 feet of the subject lot, as opposed to the 50 touched by the sub.
Wouldn't it make more sense, Carl, to maybe do one of the lots from the north and then the other two from Wilderness?
We could, I mean, that would be, the cost of improving 2 points of access would
Well,
be
one
exceptional.
lot off Wilderness, what is it, saltweed, or
Yes.
is not, is sort of consistent with the level of service of that common driveway. I don't think you'd have to do much of anything.
But the question is, do we have rights to that common driveway, or would we have rights if it's open to highway standards? And that's something I can review, but I don't think that we have rights to the common driveway. I think only
That's what I
in the
was
event
asking,
it was
yeah.
accepted into the highway system.
So you'd
So
have-
then that request would make us improve both points of access.
Oh, I see, okay.
So what if they put in something that said that, since they would prefer this, they're looking for you to provide information to the board so that they can?
Absolutely. I'm totally willing to consider it.
it's-
I just say, I think it's a lot to say that it's your preference at this point,
Yeah.
that
Can
you
you
use the
be
top.
specific about which line you're referring to in the staff report?
So the staff is recommending the top
No,
line.
the staff report.
In the actual staff
Oh,
report?
I see what
Because
you're
that's
saying.
really what we're gonna be adopting, so
Yes,
then
so
we
if
could
you
just
look
say,
at-
oh yeah, change
Number
this
2.
language to that.
So if you look at number 2, it says the applicant's
Thank you.
preferred access roadway. Planning staff has identified and is recommending the use of the common driveway associated with the Saltwood Associates Fund. I would say planning staff has identified and recommends serious consideration of.
Yeah, and that's a minor
investigation
change to
was-
the staff report.
That's a minor change,
Yeah.
but it means everything as far as direct us to look at it. But I think at this
And
point, it's
submit-
premature to say that you prefer that.
And
I'd like a little
submit,
more information.
submit the documentation that you're gonna get when you do your review.
Of course.
Can you go back to the aerial for a second, Jeff? As we know, the neighbors came in and were, upset and concerned, and all that is reflected in the report. Using the northern entrance, I would imagine you would have the same,
Concern for the
the
residents.
neighbors
Of course.
that are up there are gonna come in and share the exact same concerns.
Except
Yes.
it's not going through their property. You have to look at it.
It is going
Right,
through.
and that was the other question I had when you
It's not
talked about
dissecting
the
it.
50 feet being taken or whatever from the properties farther south, I guess. Normally, a right-of-way is 50 feet, so is it 25 feet on each side? Like,
Yes, that's exactly right. But, again, the property on the box at the bottom, those 4 at the bottom,
Right.
the top left
He owns the same.
has said, you can put all on my property. He's given them a 60-foot easement. So we could actually redirect that right-of-way and put access entirely on that northern lot.
Does he own that piece? Is that another
Can
piece
you
that
zoom,
he
can you
owns?
zoom into that area there?
Does
where
he
the-
own-
where the-
Does he
where
own one of those
50 foot right of way?
pieces? The same owner? Is there common ownership
Okay.
between the lot that's being proposed
The
for
big lot
development?
and that,
Yeah.
he had, through a deal worked out, he has a piece of that, yes. And that deal was in consideration of that easement.
Of that easement?
Yes.
So from where the road reverter, 50-foot cul-de-sac is in the middle, it's in the middle of that right away.
If you look, go to the Bennett subdivision, if you don't mind, Jeff.
You're saying that the property to the north of that is willing to give you full access from,
Yeah. If you, it's
'Cause he's a
easier on the
part owner.
subdivision map.
yeah, but it's kind of difficult to see it.
Sure. So that, see parcel 2?
Yes.
He's willing to direct it off the cul-de-sac entirely onto his property, so that we wouldn't use any of parcel 3.
So, but in the same, so with his half, if you like, of that, plus another
Yes,
30 feet or whatever it takes to give him the width to go.
yes.
So
Now,
you
that
want-
would require some efforts from this board to amend
The
this,
plot line.
so that
Yeah.
with his written consent, that right-of-way moves onto his lot entirely.
That whole cul-de-sac
Yeah, exactly.
would be on his property.
Now, is the recommendation from the planning staff to have access to all of the lots from that northern?
Yes, all of them.
So there's 2 concerns, right? Obviously, concerns of the residents of the subdivision. The other concern was the structure of Wilderness Trail, which is still currently considered to be a private right-of-way, and whether or not you are able to get clarity on whether or not that still can be used for the purposes of the subdivision. So we identified another access point, which was a part of the application as well, when for consideration, but obviously, the preferred access point was off of Wilderness Trail via the William Bennett future road diverter. So we elected and chose as a recommendation the Saltwood common driveway, which would then provide access to the proposed three-lot subdivision. Now, if the board recommends otherwise, it's totally fine with me. I wanted to make sure that we at least had, if there was any resistance or any roadblock to utilizing this as an option for this subdivision, that we at least have an alternative if they wanted to move forward with it.
Now, if saltwater, whatever it's called, is brought into the highway system, is that a 30-foot wide two-lane road? I mean,
Well,
Why
it's
now?
the subdivision map has offered dedication to bring it into.
but
the-
if it is,
Correct.
it's not going to be a common driveway. It's
Correct.
It's
It
going to
would
be
have to be
a
approved.
real road.
Right.
Yeah, so it's
Which
the
I
same,
would-
it brings us to the same quandary that we have with Wilderness.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah. Which is, which, there's also a right with some guy named Joe Gaza that I've never heard of.
Who's sitting behind you?
So just so you can
Wilderness,
see,
what
this is
improvements
a
do you have to do
paved
to
road
water?
all the way through, which.
So we want, with the highway superintendent there, they want drainage. We haven't discussed specifics, so does your engineer. That's another thing, the engineer's actually vetted Wilderness.
This is
and
to
has
bring
not.
it to town standards.
To bring it to country lane specs.
Country
right.
lane.
So we'd have to widen it at points, we'd have to include drainage. We've been through it with the highway department, and my client is willing to do that work. Now, that's not to say he wouldn't be willing to do it on the north,
And they could do that one country specs also.
but it would be, yes, but then we'd left with 20 feet of frontage as opposed to 50.
And is that wide enough to actually do, how wide is the right of way on that north?
I'd have to look into that, but it has to be wide enough for
Town highways.
the town highway. But again, it creates this situation that the southern access would avoid, in that you have 20 feet of frontage for what is proposed 3 lots. And that's exceptionally low amount of frontage. But
Carl,
again, all I'm asking is instead of stating that it's your preference, just direct me to consider it.
Carl, one factor that you may want to consider is, have you looked at the water situation?
For public water?
Yeah.
We have. We have a Rayner group is on board, and they would not require connection, according to Rayner's
Because there's been a
discussion.
lot of
Yeah.
water main extension activities.
Yeah.
In that
As you know,
area.
Great Hill Road was brought down to Watermill Town and then tied into Edge of Woods, which now runs into Deerfield. It's very close. And when you go to the health department, they're gonna look at that and say, we want public water, and what's the fire district gonna tell us?
They want cisterns.
Well, that aerial is good, because if you have to bring water all the way down Seven Ponds Town and then all the way up, that could be a real deciding factor to bring a main that's significantly more water main extension for you.
Yeah,
than
I
if
mean,
you
it's
went-
about 3,000 linear feet to bring that main.
Yeah,
So our engineers, in discussions with the health department, have determined that they would not require, that's excessive,
when was this discussed, when did
within
this,
the last few months.
few months, okay, because
Yeah.
those water mains went in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And where are they exactly?
Edge of,
If you,
Edge
could you
of
widen out
Woods.
the aerial,
Edge of Woods in Watermill Town.
if you look at Great Hill Road,
Yeah.
It's up here.
Great Hill Road, it was extended all the way to the end of Great Hill Road, and then across, it crossed and went up, Watermill Town over to Edge of Woods. So
Where's
you're
that?
very
The other way,
close.
is that way.
And
then
Wilderness
up to the
Trail is
left,
close
and
to
then up
Edge
to
of
the
Woods.
left, left.
Yeah.
Wait, where's Edge of Woods in Berlin?
It's off
Woods
of,
right here.
Edge of Woods
up-
is right there.
Yeah,
Now,
that-
where's the main? The main went from,
Look, focus on the intersection of Great Hill Road, right there.
Okay.
That's the one that impacts you.
Yes.
Now, go down a little bit, so that we can see their property. Now, there, the red box is your property. You can see now, if you have to
Close.
take a water main from that intersection, there's 2 ways to do it. The northern way, which is a lot shorter than bringing it down, all the way down to Wilderness, and then all the way, you know,
well, they can't do it like that.
yeah.
Right.
That
I
might be a
think
little
it's,
tricky.
I mean, I think that's still thousands of linear feet.
That's a lot longer. Look at.
Scroll
look
down
at-
to
Scroll down to Wilderness.
Wilderness.
Right here.
But the water main is all the way down to Edge of Woods and what?
Yeah, but he has to bring, he's gonna have to bring it down.
Well,
Water-
can he
Now, their
bring it
water
from
main is
Edge of
also,
Woods?
if you go south,
Yeah, that's why.
I don't know where it
it's
is
right
from
there,
the south.
at the corner of Edge of Woods and Seven Ponds Town.
Yes.
And that.
Oh, is there water there?
There's
They-
water
they
there
just put
too.
it
You can come up Edge of
in
Woods.
last
You
week.
can come up Edge of Woods, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it doesn't really
I
matter,
guess
but
so.
both of
Pretty
those
far.
distances
But
were
the reality-
determined for a three-lot subdivision to be
But
excessive.
if the health department does say you need water, I mean, is the cost of that gonna deter you from the subdivision of those lots?
I
Probably
don't,
not.
probably not. I
Oh,
mean,
I think they're gonna require public water.
all the way down there?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll tell you how
But
water
that's up to them.
I'll
It's
tell
up
you
to
how
them,
water
yeah.
got up Great Hill Road. It's a 3-lot subdivision, cluster map. It was Zarabi Trust.
How far from?
It was
where
down
the
at the
main
corner
was?
of Nature's Path and Great Hill, and someone developed a map, a 3-lot
Where
map.
was it? Where was the water?
At the intersection of
Majors
Great Hill
and Great
Road
Hill?
and Major's Path.
A 3-lot subdivision, they went all the way down there?
They brought it all the way up Great Hill Road. I couldn't believe it.
What's the distance there?
A lot, and I don't know, it was significant. But I doubt, put it this way, Carl, if the health department doesn't require it, the fire district's gonna require it.
Well, we've had the.
You have fire
The
district.
fire district
Calm.
It'll
recently.
take systems, right, probably.
Yeah, how much, yeah. They
Good.
brought it 3,700 feet.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't wait. Well, we'll see what the health
What is
department
that?
says. I mean, our indications are otherwise, but certainly
And go
appreciate
talk to the
information.
fire district. I can't imagine this map is not gonna require public water.
If it does, I don't know that it would deter my client anyway.
I don't say it will, but we'll have to bake it into the cost as well.
So to conclude the report, I'll add the application or the subject property is located in Aquifer Protection Overlay District. So those clearing restrictions would be 20% per lot. Under a cluster plan, it would generally be 65% open space reserved. Now, this lot is not surrounded by any town-owned property, so the opportunity for that is not necessarily there. So we're fine with limiting the property to 20% clearing restrictions for each proposed lot. We're also requiring that the compliance with the Division of Fire Prevention and also town engineers be met. Obviously, the Suffolk County Health Department approval with the final application would have to be submitted. And obviously, all records and paperwork associated with the final application with regard to 92, 34, 31, and 20 of Town Code would be required as far as the final application. But we are recommending that we move this to a final application stage as a minor subdivision with taking into account the changes to the report with regard to, I don't have preference in here, but I'll remove recommendation.
So number 2 would say something to the effect of further examination of the use of the.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we're happy to do that.
And Carl, to Dennis's point, we're trying to at least bring one lot from the, depending on what you have to do and whether you can use it.
Absolutely.
It might actually be a better, because then you don't have to provide, the length of clearing along that eastern property line to provide access to lot 3 would be a lot less.
Absolutely.
You can take direct access directly of that north lot and then provide a shorter access along your boundary for the remaining lots.
If there is
If you're
permitted
allowed,
access
yeah.
under that, then that's the way to go. But I understood that that required bringing it up to town specs. So it wasn't an easement in this lot's favor. We'd have to actually bring it to town
Well, this,
specs.
I mean, and, I find it kind of interesting, and I mean, I think it would be good, you bring it up to town specs, but it'll never be a town road, because you don't have enough right-of-way. It would be perhaps the specs for a common driveway, I guess, with drainage and everything,
You
but.
might- No,
Well,
you
they
might.
can't be, well, what's the,
It's
what's the
50
width
feet.
of the right of, the northern right of way? Was it 50?
Salt.
I thought you said.
It was
20.
on the, again, that subdivision, sorry, on the topo map I presented, or the topo survey.
Well, it's proposed as,
Oh, there it is. That's another way to do it.
Because the engineer's comments talk about common driveway.
What's the width of that? 50 feet?
so that is,
It looks like 60 feet maybe.
60 feet.
Okay, so
Okay,
that's
well, then
fine.
you could, okay, I thought you were talking about keeping it at 20 feet.
Well, it's only touches my lot 20 feet, so there's only 20 feet of road frontage.
Road frontage, yes.
Oh, okay.
Actually,
That's-
correction, it's 50 feet, 20, 20, and 10.
Okay, right, okay, then it could.
So it's, the width of the road is not the concern, it's the amount of road frontage, which was
Okay.
20 when 60 is required.
So it may be that you really don't have legal access to that easement for one lot unless it's brought in, unless it's taken and approved to town.
Ideally, if we had, and I just don't remember, I'm assuming not because we looked at this, but if there is an actual right-of-way benefiting my lot there, then yes, that, we're using that for access to the northern lot. But I understood that that required opening up
That's what- yeah.
that to the highway
Right.
system. It wasn't just a right. So in other words, if you consider it in the context of the southern access, we don't have the rights that of the immediate subdivision that we do on the south. It's the same as the right-of-way that Joe owns, or that Joe's right-of-way with subject to the irrevocable offer.
And the, following up on the point number 2, then, point number 6 on your recommendations, it says that it should follow the engineering division comments. I think we have to see how the further
The engineering
evaluation comes
division
out.
should also look at the northern part.
Right, so you can't specify, follow these
Right.
recommendations until we know that is going to be the driveway.
So I can make a notation that upon further review of access points, I would say the most feasible access point, because even if I'm hearing you clearly, even the saltweed access point, which is what's on the screen, will only really service the one lot, not necessarily all 3 lots as part of the subdivision. Am I clear? Is that
I
what
think they're
we're-
telling us
we're
to look
just-
at all of it.
we're looking at all of it.
Consider all
Okay,
of the
okay, so I
options.
can, I can.
Either way, you're gonna need a common driveway along that
Right,
property
so
line
I
to save the
can,
lots.
once we've determined the access point, I can put verbiage that
Right.
states that, once it's been determined, that the applicant shall take heed to the engineering recommendations for a common driveway for all 3 lots.
Can I recommend? I think you
Sure,
just
sure.
say that applicant shall give, serious consideration to use of the northern, of the, what's it called? The saltweed offer of dedication for access to all or some of the subdivision.
Right, but that doesn't, if anything, I could remove line item number
Item
6.
6, right.
Which essentially refers back to the engineering department's comments regarding common driveway and specs and being compliant with his recommendations.
But are they kind of generic recommendations?
Yeah, they are generic, generally with
So I think
common
maybe-
driveway.
Would they
I think
apply
they
to-
cover-
They'd apply
They
to
apply in
both.
every scenario,
Right.
so.
I think you'd have to
That's fine.
ask Tom if they,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, logic says they'll apply to both. These may be kind of boilerplate. but-
Right. Well, I can,
Again, we
I
have
can
to
put
see what
language where,
happens.
once it's determined at which access point,
Right.
we can apply these
Yeah.
recommendations to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Perfect.
Um,
And can I just say, it says in number 2, it says the planning staff has identified. I think that has to be the board, right? Other than that,
So, as amended,
I hope I was nicer than the last guy.
That's not
Every
hard.
place.
to adopt this pre-application report.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adopt the report?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria,
Second?
second by Craig, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, 6 yes. Carl, good to see you.
Great to see you.
Take care,
Thank you.
Carl.
Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we'll move on.
200 West,
Do you mind if we jump to Atlantic, which is number
Atlantic,
13?
okay.
Yeah, since
Since we do have,
Since
the
Tony's been
applicant's
sitting here for
representative
hours.
The sole person, Mr. Lazo. So if you remember, this application came to us at the pre-submission stage. I'll bring it up for you to view.
we're going to item 13, lucky 13.
Item lucky number 13.
Yeah, Atlantic Golf. turf barn, so we know what it is.
Turf farm. Secret coordination?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a report?
Where is it?
13.
This is for secret, right?
It should be determined
It says completeness.
and completeness.
What was in the packet had lots of errors.
In the packet? Oh, yeah, that wasn't, yeah, I should have considered.
That's why I'm asking to see it,
For sure,
'cause
for sure.
Is it type, unlisted action? No, it's type 1.
All right. So the applicant was before us at the pre-submission stage. This application is for the construction of 1,254 square foot addition to an existing storage building, proposed employee bathroom, installation of an IA septic system, replacement of an aging slab, and replacement of an existing gravel driveway with permeable stone pavers. It's situated on 204 acres, located at 1040 Scuttle Hole Road. Also within our Aquifer Protection Overlay District. This is also considered a site plan wetlands application because it's proximity to Short Pond, which is situated to the east of the project location. And it's also located within an archaeological sensitive area. The applicant had an historic, well, let me rephrase. The applicant had an archaeological phase 1B completed on this project site. I mean, this location has been before the board for numerous applications. I think even the staff housing might have been the most recent one. The proposed construction site won't be impacted based on the archaeological report provided by us. It has already been, study has already been completed on it with regard to that site. So we're recommending that we move forward with referrals and considering the application complete. All the requisite documentation and paperwork associated with the application are in and can provide proper discussion. I don't know if the applicant's representative had any questions for the board or concerns or.
So we're gonna make a
So it's the
secret determination?
Correct. So the secret determination, the project itself, which I'll provide to you to read off the my determination. The project itself, the action is adjacent to what we've already stipulated as the freshwater pond, short pond. The proposed driveway improvements, where the subject property currently has a dirt gravel driveway, will benefit from the conversion to a permeable stone pavers. Even the applicant has preliminary discussions with Marty Shea, and he has already confirmed that the permeable stone pavers are a better choice in driveway material, which would further reduce any stormwater runoff, any runoff into the freshwater pond, short pond. The applicant is also proposing the IA system, which is consistent with the town of Southampton goals when it comes to groundwater resources and protection of that. So with that being said, we're recommending a negative declaration on this and then move forward with referrals. At the pre-submission stage, we also recommended that a public hearing be waived. So along with deeming this complete, we're just requesting 30-day written comment period.
And Jeff, do you want two resolutions? First one secret?
So yes, I did create two resolutions.
Okay, so then the first one is a negative declaration.
Correct.
Okay, do we have a motion for neg deck, Atlantic Golf Turf Farm?
Motion?
Motion by Gloria. Second by George, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions? We have 6 yes. The second one is to deem the application complete with a 30-day written comment period. Is that
Correct.
right, Jeff? Okay, do we have a motion for that?
Motion?
Motion by Kate, second by Craig, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions? 6 yes. Good to go.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience.
All right, let's see what we have left here.
Paulsonelli is just a
Paulsonelli?
acknowledgement, I think.
Was Paulsonelli signed?
Yes, it was, but
Okay, item 14
But we have,
was acknowledged for signature. We're dropping back, right? We
yeah,
have
that's,
other-
We still
Okay.
have number 7 and 8.
Okay. right. 7 is 200 West Montauk.
Uh, 200 West Montauk, up for you. This is an existing 1,650 square foot, two-story antique and furniture repair shop located at 200 West Montauk in Hampton Bays, adjacent to just west of the Hampton Bays McDonald's. Let's see if I can bring up the aerial for you. We held a public hearing on February 23rd as well, with no public comments. Also held a 30-day comment period, also with no public comments. The proposed action on this is to convert that existing furniture and antique repair shop to a retail store for home furnishings, and a nail salon on the first floor. With the second floor, 2 offices, and an unfinished basement. In the report, I don't know if you have an extra one, I think I gave you all my copies. In the report, we received comments from the Fire Prevention, or Division of Fire Prevention, March 23rd, 2023. These are customary comments. It's the wrong one.
Sorry.
Okay. So the property does benefit from an existing ZBA approval with regard to side yard, a 2-foot for the principal building structure, and a 0.5-foot for off-street parking. Was denied as part of that application. So we're just asking the applicant to be compliant with the original ZBA decision. The requested action does not require any changes to the structure's positioning on the property. There are 3 total uses. The first use, which would be an office use, which 2 office uses on the second floor. I will confirm that, or I am confirming that the existing structure does have 2 offices on the second floor. But renovation of such offices will be a part of this approval on this application. On the main floor, the existing furniture shop now will be a nail salon and a retail store, which I'll give you the layout. So the nail salon is positioned to the front of the structure with the retail store at the rear of the structure. Retail store, again, is comprised of home furnishings. Pursuant to Town Code 33031B in the Highway Business Zoning District, it permits 1 use per 20,000 square feet. I provided you with the calculations, so they are compliant with that, and as well as 1 office use per 4,000 square feet of lot area. So there's two existing and 2 renovated offices that will be a part of this application. Also compliant with that as well. This is a type 2 action, so we are requesting no further review from a secret standpoint. Landscaping, if you're familiar with this site, the McDonald's is to the front abutting Montauk Highway where King Cullen, Stop and Shop, which is to the rear. There is considerable vegetation on that side. There's not much more than a scrub oak vegetation on the Montauk Highway side with regard to this proposed project. So we're requesting that the applicant include a landscaping plan which properly screens the property itself from the side, from the east to the west, and also from the rear of the property. It is an aquifer overlay district, but as I mentioned before, the lot itself is 1.5 acres. So from a clearing standpoint, they are limited to a 15% allowable clearing. One thing I forgot to mention is it is located in a split zone. So a split between a highway business as well as, I believe, a residential 40 zoning district. Majority of the R40 zoning district is in the core preservation area, I believe, the compatible growth area, excuse me. And I'll show you that on the map. So you can see where the split, this bold red line is where the zoning district split. But most of the property itself is undisturbed, undeveloped, and kept natural. So we're requesting that that remain be so, at the very least 15% clearing on the property. Parking, as far as the application is concerned, 101 parking spot per 150 square feet of gross floor area was proposed, which brought us to a total of 23 parking spots. Upon review, the required parking would be more consistent with 1 per 180 square feet for a total of 19 spaces. The applicant also mentioned that there would be a total of 10 employees on site. So we're adding that to the total for a total of 29 required parking spots. No truck loading spaces have been identified, although the uses proposed on this property don't speak to a need for a truck loading station, but then again, the home furnishing, depending on how that's built and comprised, may require a designated area for truck loading. So
Jeff, how many parking spots do they have at present?
Presently, it's sparsed out. The existing structure is essentially abandoned.
How many parking spaces do they provide right now?
Right now, as far as the application is concerned, they're only providing, or actually they're providing more. They're providing actually 23 total parking spaces as far as the site plan is concerned. So I'll bring that back.
Is there cross-access to the
So yeah, so
McDonald's
that's an interesting conversation which I wanted to bring up with the board too. Just to answer your question, George, here we go. This is what they're proposing as far as parking with the dumpster to the rear of the parking.
But you're saying that they really should be providing 29?
No, well, yes, 29 primarily because of that number changes. So when I spoke with the applicants, because the employee aspect of the parking calculation was not identified in this site plan, when I asked the applicant, they said that when we're talking about the 2 offices, the nail salon, as well as the retail store, a total of 10 employees will be on site during main business hours. So we have to take that into account. Now, the planning board can make any changes to that if they wish to, but based on the code and the calculations provided by us is how I determined the 20 to 29 parking spots.
Will they get some credit for linking the cross-access, correct? I don't know.
So yes, so that's what I kind of wanted to talk about. The McDonald's site plan application actually has a driveway which comes onto this property. Let me bring that up for you so you can see.
Because then you can at least get to the signal.
Right, right. So the way it's currently configured, you do have the opportunity to get to the signal. So In the report, I placed a question mark regarding some type of directional sign. If, as you exit here, you could turn about and head and utilize the signal from this location here. The reason why I really wanted to talk about the cross access is it is located in an area that's not necessarily developed, would require additional screening, but with the added parking spots would be opened up one way or another. But this area right here, as it currently is situated, has a fence that goes across it.
Has what?
Has a fence.
Okay.
Has an existing fence that goes across it all the way to the rear of Stop and Shop.
They
So-
need to construct the additional parking?
They would have to construct them based on the site plan. It would be constructed just north of this cross access point here. We can maintain this sealed and closed off with the existing fence that's there. Considering that this access point, which gives access to both McDonald's and this subject property. But if you prefer to have our cross access requirements be satisfied through this point here.
I think the rear makes more sense only because, number one, you have to cross, you have
coming out from
to go
McDonald's, right?
right across the drive, people are picking up their drive-through orders.
Yeah.
Right.
And usually when they're pulling away, they're checking their order
Or
and,
they're
you know, they're
eating.
not looking. And the other thing is that getting into that signal light, it really stacks up from the traffic light. It
Right.
stacks up way past, a lot of times, the McDonald's and exit. You know, I often wait and wave someone in just because I feel sorry for them. They're, you know, you're stacked up 10, 12 cars, they can't get out. So it'd make a lot more sense to link in the back.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, when I looked at it, that was ideal for me too. I do see that based on this particular site plan, that the traffic, if you wanted to utilize the traffic light, we did direct them around here, but you're right, it does stack up quite a bit,
Yeah.
which makes it a bit more difficult to access the traffic light from this
And
location.
there should probably no left turn out of the exit on Montauk Highway.
Okay, no left turn.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't think they allow left turn.
Yeah, I mean, that, you get so
I think there's
congested.
signage precluding.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
there's
think
so
there is
much
signage already
congestion
existing,
between
but-
McDonald's
Yeah, you wouldn't
and-
want to make a left turn out of it.
Yeah.
I'll stipulate that in the report, even if there is an existing sign, but I'll make sure we call attention to that.
Yeah, I haven't been in that site in probably 20 years when there was a plant, you could get chairs, canes
Wickers,
there.
yeah, the wicker was there, yep. That's who originally built it.
To that point, are these new owners that are, like, they purchasing this building
From my
or whatever?
understanding, they're actually before the board, I believe, 2 years ago, for a different type of site plan application. I don't remember exactly what they were proposing, but it went nowhere. And they reintroduced this application, or reintroduced a new application with these proposed uses.
And the reason furniture repair and antique stores, if they were into refinishing, there's use of, hazardous chemicals for stripping furniture and redoing furniture. I would presume if a new owner bought it, they, looked for those kind of problems or issues or whatever.
That's a
I
really
would
good
just,
point, yeah.
No,
Just
you're
be
right.
a re-lacquering thing that's presents a health risk.
I just hope there isn't, a couple of barrels of something behind the building,
Sure.
uh,
So, from my understanding, the retail aspect is strictly retail. There will be no refurbishing of furniture of any sort.
I
Well,
think
the
what
history,
he's
the
saying.
Right, the
history of what's
history.
been going on
Right, right.
for 20 years or whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
and what,
So yeah, I think I think that's a good point actually. So I'll include that.
Maybe a visual inspection by somebody, just to make sure.
You would hope
Yeah.
that would have been in their contract or
Right.
whatever.
You would
Because
think.
that's something they would have to disclose.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
they'll have to go before Suffolk County wastewater, right?
I don't know.
Well,
Do they have to get?
They would have to because of the nail salon use, I would assume. They are proposing 2 bathroom facilities where this existing structure, I believe, does not have any, I think it only
They
has the
don't have
one bathroom facility. Although it's still not operational and has not been for quite some time now. So yes, they would have to go to the health department at the very least.
So yeah, then they'll probably open up all the septics and test ground
see what's in there.
anyway, and then a visual inspection for anything that might be residual on site.
Right. Nail salons use thinners too, right?
What?
Nail salons use thinners as well?
Acetone.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Acetone?
Is it?
Like nail polish remover? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, they, and the gels and stuff are like all toxic. I don't have any
I
on.
understand. They wear masks when they're.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of stuff in the media recently about how dangerous some of the stuff that we use is.
But we digress.
Do you want to make a notation in regard to that, or
No.
are we okay with
I think we're good.
the chemicals associated with the previous or pre-existing use?
Yeah.
Well, I think to Kate's point, though,
Mhm.
what about referral to the health department for
They
septic?
have to do
it
that.
anyway.
Right, they'll have to
Yeah.
do it.
They won't get a permit.
Pardon?
They won't get a building permit if they don't have all their stuff in order.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Suffolk County Health Department requires like a soil testing in and around the septic that's going to be replaced to make sure that nobody poured something crazy down the drain. And it would have to be remediated at that time.
I think I can touch on all the points of the report. So I'll make the additional changes and add in the preferred cross-access to the north, as well as visual inspection with regard to the previous antique furniture repair and chemicals associated with it. So I recommend approving this draft, or excuse me, the pre-submission report.
Okay, motion?
Motion?
Motion by Kate,
Second.
second by Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We have 6 yes for approval of the report.
And lastly, item number 8, re-veg.
Reveg, reveg.
74 Toppings Path
74.
in Sagaponic.
Plan for review.
When are we going for this to be administrative, or what is the bring
Administrator?
So yes,
Are we going to make this an administrative function to re-veg?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
but
don't know
it-
when that's going to go into effect. That'd be nice. I thought it was adopted.
We sent it to the town board. I don't know that the town board has even
Yeah.
addressed it.
You got so much on that plate right now.
so this is to consider restoration of 1.3% of overcleared vegetation on a 96,028 square foot property to bring it compliant with 25% allowable clearing. 74 Toppings Path located in Sagaponic. The re-veg plan does pinpoint the areas of revegetation. The applicant did provide us with information regarding the plants, caliper size associated with the requested revegetation, which is consistent with the planting plan or planting list that I provided him as part of the review. Gray birches, low bush blueberries are what's primarily comprised of this planting plan, and should bring this property back into compliance with the required 25% allowable clearing. So I'm recommending that we move forward and approve this restoration plan and revegetation application.
Okay, very good. Your motion to approve it?
Motion?
Motion by Gloria, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 6 yes. We've got, we'll be
think
back
we're
at
done.
6 p.m.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn by Kate, and a second by George.
I signed it.
So you're adjourned, we'll
He
see you
did
at
that
6
for
p.m.
Thank you.
See y'all later.
How busy is our calendar?
Everyone, Kristen, do you have agendas for this evening yet? You do.